Welcome everyone to the Nerd Nook. I'm your host, Evan Teague, and with me like always is my excellent friend, Noah Bailey. So today, we have a fun one for you. We are going to be ranking every single X-Men movie / X-Men adjacent property movie. Now this includes the 3 original movies,
Oh yeah,
the 3 Wolverine movies,
of course.
the 3 prequel movies.
Yes.
four technically prequel movies.
Or yeah, kind of.
Days of Future.
It's complicated.
Yeah. I count Days of Future Past in that because it's
Well, that's what I'm saying, because it's like it is, but it also isn't. You know what I mean?
yes. We'll get there.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
And also the 2 Deadpools.
Right.
We're not including New Mutants. I'm not watching that.
And yet you'll watch the others.
But also, New Mutants would make it a top 13, and we can't have that kind of energy going into this. That would be unlucky.
That's true. It's true. It'd be unlucky. You just it throws off the whole vibe. It's not
Exactly. So yes, we have 12 X-Men property movies to go over. So I say we dive on in. If you don't mind, I kind of want to go first.
Please do.
So my number 12, in my opinion, keep in mind, I'm going to be ranking these based on what I personally believe to be the most enjoyable X-Men movies. This might not be the worst X-Men movie on this list, but for me, it was the hardest to get through. For me, the X-Men franchise movie that is my personal least favorite is The Wolverine.
Wow. Okay.
I don't think it would be possible to conceive a more boring superhero movie. Like, this movie makes Man of Steel look like Scott Pilgrim. It is insane. It is insane just how cool a concept Logan just as a character is, and just how squandered that is in this movie.
There's a lot of that going around.
Fair enough. But like, it's one thing in like, in for example, Spider-Man 2, when Spider-Man, is having his issues and he's starting to like kind of lose touch of his powers, so he hangs up the mantle for a while, and like you spend a decent chunk of the movie with him like depowered, and he has to like deal with normal stuff. That's one thing, mostly because that movie is written well. It's never fun when you see a character that you know is stupid strong spend the majority of your movie not being stupid strong. For example, in Wonder Woman 1984, the majority of that movie is her just not being Wonder Woman for kind of an inexplicable reason. And I know that came out after this, but the vast majority of the Wolverine is him like has some kind of weird bug thing attached to his heart that's deadening his powers somehow. Like, I know how it happened, but they didn't explain like what exactly. Like, did Poison kiss that into him, or whatever her Viper kissed that into him? Did she like drug him some other way? I'm not entirely sure. Viper was a terrible villain, so like the way it was written, it was as if we were supposed to know who she was already, because Wolverine said something like, "Oh, I've run into her before," but like, or something like that.
Yeah. There's like a familiarity that was definitely hinted at, but at no point was ever explained.
No.
Which again, there's a lot of that going around. But still.
And legitimately,
I'm like, that sounds familiar.
Mm-hmm. I can only think of 2 action scenes in the entire movie, and it's the wedding into the train sequence, and then nothing happens for a while, and then the climax where still nothing kind of happens.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the train scene, like, as far as, like, from what I remember, it's like, I know the one scene that always sticks out to me is when they're doing the jumping and the guy's reacting to his jump because he can't see, and then he just, like, Yeah, and he's like, oh, duh! I'm like,
That was
I
my
always thought
favorite
that was
favorite
interesting,
part
but
of the
other
movie.
than that, it's like, that was kind of for a train fight. That was pretty boring.
Yes.
Because usually train fights are kind of insane. But
Yes,
like,
and
yeah, that one
X-Men
was
is
pretty...
also not exactly uncommon for train scenes to happen in X-Men.
Exactly. But like, they're usually better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and like none of the supporting cast was fun or interesting at all.
No.
Yukio, I think, was the character that kind of tagged along with them. I didn't really like her very much. Her power was kind of interesting, like knowing when people die is an interesting concept. Because like if you know that they die fighting you, you win.
Yeah, it's weird though, because it's one of those powers that's like makes more sense on paper than practically though.
Yes.
And it kind of just like, because A, does that change? Can you like be in the middle of a fight and it's like all of a sudden, oh, they're gonna live through this? You're like, oh crap, or like, I don't know. It's kind of weird. I don't know. I mean, it's okay, but yeah, I feel like that's better on paper than actually like, especially in live action, trying to make that work kind of feels a little, but whatever.
Yeah, and Wolverine like actually kind of getting with the 20-something-year-old Asian girl was kind of weird. Like he's known her for like 2 days and they're already making out. Like I don't know.
It is Logan. I mean, I don't know. I guess they've made that his thing, so it's just like it's Hugh Jackman. He's being extra. So,
but also, this is the movie that has the Silver Samurai as technically the main antagonist.
Technically, yes.
Yet he's not in any of the movie. They mentioned once, kind of early on, that there was a reported large chunk of adamantium found somewhere that they collected. And they didn't even show the suit until the climax.
Yeah, and then the climax was kind of bland. Like, just kind of like, okay, that happened, but like, did it? And like, yeah.
And yeah, I legitimately can't think of anything else that actually happens in this movie.
A lot does not. And the thing that bothers me, and I know this is kind of going into like what I think too, but it's like the thing that kind of bothers me with this movie and other movies is like, for a universe that's connected, this movie did not need to exist.
No.
And it's like, how did you miss? It's like, you know what I mean? It's like you could have like, and then again, things don't have to be. I know some of the movies are obviously more sequential than others, but it's like, what area was this targeting? You know what I mean? It's kind of just like throwing, hey, let's make a movie here. Why? Because, okay, is it going to be good? Well, that's the game. Like, like...
Because the movie is just called The Wolverine.
Yeah.
Yet, he doesn't get to be Wolverine for most of the movie because he's depowered.
The majority of the movie, he doesn't do anything. They have the little, like, ending tease with the, like, OG clothes, but it's, like, not even... Like, I feel like if he had actually wore the costume, it would have been worth it.
Yes. And I do think it is possible to make that costume work in live action, but...
Yeah.
But, and like, ideally, a movie about Wolverine going to Japan and the Silver Surfer... Sorry, the Silver Samurai... The Silver Surfer doing it. The Silver Samurai is the main villain. And, like, he has to fight the Yakuza... Like that's a cool concept. Like you want Wolverine to just go around beating up gangsters as Wolverine. Like he didn't get to do that.
He did not. There was not a lot of beating and it's weird because like yeah, the idea of let's put Wolverine in Japan and go on paper sounds cool, but it's like you still have to write a decent story and like your only character, like when Logan's the only character you can remember their name, it's probably not a good sign. But I mean, I don't know. It just a lot of it was very forgettable, and I think that's the biggest part. It's not necessarily like the movie's not great, but it's also just like man, I don't like this movie didn't change anything. Nothing.
Nope.
I mean, there's like the one thing where it's like you'll die with your heart in your hand, which kind of
Technically happens
correlates
'cause he,
later.
like,
But even then, that's a stretch.
it kind of happens in this movie because he's like grabbing onto his heart to pull that thing out.
Kind of.
That's
but like, that was
yeah,
like,
that's a stretch.
You know what I mean? That's not even like. No, you didn't have to do that. Like, it wasn't enough for me to make it feel warranted, personally.
Yeah,
So.
and it's not like you needed this movie to explain Xavier being back alive because we already saw the after credit scene of X-Men 3. So like we know that he's still around technically. So like he can just show, plus it's X-Men, he can just show up and
Yeah, no one cares.
I don't care. Yeah.
And it's been like, and again, because this movie was what, like 2013?
Mm-hmm.
Which is a while after X3 anyway, so it's kind of like, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
But.
So yeah, like I wanted a movie about Wolverine just going around kicking butt in Japan, fighting the Silver Samurai once, preferably a couple of times. No.
No.
Yeah.
It kind of tried, but not really. I don't know. I still, this is one of those movies. I remember when this movie was coming out, I was kind of like, okay, but why? You know, and it was just kind of like, maybe there's going to be some big reason that it's here. And it's like, no, it's just another Hugh Jackman. And again, Hugh Jackman by himself, not the problem.
Correct.
However, everything else falling apart does not help. So,
yep.
Eh.
So like, I legitimately sometimes hear people put the Wolverine trilogy in the same tier as like the Captain America or the Dark Knight trilogy. I'm like, just because Logan is good doesn't mean.
Like, don't get me wrong, Logan is. We'll get there,
we'll
but
get
like,
there. Come on,
it doesn't carry that hard.
It can't carry this and X-Men Origins.
That's what I'm saying. It's like you can't have two anchors and still be like floating. You know what I mean? Like it's yeah, no. That's
yeah. So that's my number 12. What's your number 12?
I feel bad because now we're just messing with it. It's the other one.
Origins.
And again, okay. So here's my thing with this movie. Okay. So of course, you know, we rewatched them all to kind of get, and like, this is one of those movies that you remember it wasn't good, but you go back and you're like, oh no, this was bad. Like, and I feel bad because like, I remember going in thinking, I didn't like it, but I remember it was good enough. And now I'm like, not really, because not only does it change things that were already established and make them worse, but it doesn't really explain anything to make it better either, so It kind of just double negatives.
Yep. They just straight up did, like, they had flashbacks to when he got his powers in X-Men 2 and 3, and they just didn't do that in his origin movie.
They were just like, you know, this whole thing, like, and it was weird because, like, you could either A, not have set it up before, or B, just not have gone through the map, but it's like, you can't double down and, like, retcon it and make it worse. Like, that's really hard to do, and also it just shouldn't be done, so it's kind of annoying, and it's weird because, like, there's this whole thing, there's the whole, I mean, the side characters are not,
they have a Cyclops and an Emma Frost just in this movie for no reason, even though they both could easily have their own Origins brand movie. They just didn't. Especially
Cyclops, which was really annoying because it was like they were trying to do Wolverine's origin and kind of half do First Class and kind of do like three things at once, and they dropped the ball on each one.
Yep.
And it was kind of just like, oh, no, like the movie doesn't know where it's going. The characters don't know what they're doing. Like, it's really and there's a lot of characters who just look lost, and it's really, I guess, upsetting.
And are we supposed to assume that his brother character is the same Sabretooth that shows up in the original?
Exactly. Because again, I'm watching these movies, and again, we owe the X-Men, the OG trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
Sabretooth, if that was the thing, and it's like, okay, they seem, at least in the first movie, they don't seem to really know each other, but yeah, a little rivalry, whatever. And now, oh, by the way, my brother's like, what?
Brother.
Huh? Even if you're like, and it's really weird because it's like they don't try to like explain why it's different, or like they just like go, oh yeah, that's Sabretooth now. Why? Cause like why? And again, like I don't think I wouldn't say necessarily the idea of Sabretooth being his brother is a bad idea in theory. Like you could make that work, but like at no point did they set this up. But this movie's clearly supposed to be connected, so it's like, did you just forget you did this character totally differently, or did you just not care, or just like, and it annoys you because it makes other movies worse.
The funniest part is they even double down in Days of Future Past about this movie being canon, because like again, like you said, this movie clearly retcons canon from the original trilogy, and also retcons canon from First Class. Yet in Days of Future Past, when Professor X reads his mind, he sees visions from both the original trilogy and Origins. That can't happen.
And that's kind of my thing. And like, and I think that's the biggest reason. Because again, like the movie's bad, but it's like I think the biggest reason I just started really disliking this movie is because it was making other movies around it worse while I'm watching it. And it's like, why is it? And I don't know if that's fair because again, on its own, it might not be the worst, but it's like because of the poison effect, it just bothers me because it's just like, how would you set that up and then completely like, and again, clearly aware of what you're about to do, casually and with your chest out, just destroy this already established canon and make what you're building on top of it worse, and later defend what you've already like done, and it's just like, I
don't know. And this movie started the trend of like small jokes that only work if these characters know they're X-Men, because in this movie at one point Wolverine goes, come on, or he's talking to not Blob, but Blob, and he's like, come on Bob, I just need your help. And Blob is apparently doesn't like being called Blob. He turns around and goes, did you just call me Blob? I was like, no, I said Bub, and then he got punched. But like, he would only think Wolverine calls him Blob if that character knew in the comics he's called Blob.
And I remember that was one of the big trailer scenes too. They're like, "Did you call me Blob? What?" And it's like, but yeah, it's stuff like that where it's like, clearly it's like, "Ooh, look what we did there," and like, okay, but like, not okay. Like,
no, it was done badly. Like, not only did you kind of like, you just like snuck in his Wolverine's catchphrase, and like, yeah, you used him using his catchphrase for someone else to misinterpret it, and like, why? It's so weird.
And then him to like, potentially like it and then keep it as a name, like, you know what I mean? It's just like,
I don't know.
I don't know. It's fine. And then like, don't even get me started on the Deadpool thing. But again,
I wasn't going to. I was going to move on to
which again is a whole other thing that was makes other things work.
Yes, I was going to move on to the fact that this movie is has one of the worst editing of any movie I've ever seen. Just the one little, like, the first little skirmish between Wolverine and Sabretooth, when Sabretooth like knocks him down, picks him up, and throws him, and that like he gets hit by that truck and rolls over. There is 18 edits of him between him getting hit and thrown over that truck. 18 different cuts. I'm exaggerating a bit, but it's several cuts of him getting like lifted up three different. Like I
it's
get
like the whole Liam Neeson
Yep.
jumping the fence thing where it's like cut to what, cut, and by the time he's down, you're like, is that even the same person?
Yep.
Like, I don't even know what I saw.
And it's not like you needed to like cut around a stunt double. It was all CG anyway. Like,
Right?
and like there is exactly one good scene in the entire movie, and it's that quiet little scene with him and those two elderly people, and then immediately after that scene, the movie just gets worse and worse forever. Like I could maybe tolerate it as just like a kind of cheesy '80s throwback movie, whatever. But then after after that scene, it gets unbearable.
It's just annoying because it just keeps going and like destroying other things. The other mutants aren't interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because you realize people that, like, when I was a kid and when I first saw this movie, I didn't realize who the people were. Like, one of the guys is the guy from Friday Night Lights, and I'm just like, oh, that's Tim Riggin, but obviously it's like, oh, but his character's stupid. It's like, oh, well, his character sucks. Never mind, I don't care anymore. So it's always interesting, but yeah, it's not that great.
It is not.
All that to say, it is not great.
However, it is actually not my number 11. My number 11 is X-Men Apocalypse.
Yeah.
Is that yours? Is that
no,
yours?
it's close.
Okay. We've already done like a whole hour-long deconstruction of how bad this movie is. But just even on my third watch of this movie, it is it's really hard trying to say this movie is not worse than Amazing Spider-Man 2. It like like I
it's not even a Spider-Man review still getting
because like obviously Suicide Squad is the worst movie ever, or at least like one of the worst movies ever made, definitely the worst superhero movie ever made. Amazing Spider-Man 2 is an easy second, and this is like a extremely close third. Maybe second. Like it is so bad. Like I'm not gonna. I've already ranted for like an hour about how bad this movie is, but just every single aspect of this movie, they just gave up. Every single aspect of this movie annoys me. The movie stops in the middle of the movie to go to a different island with Stryker stuff that does not matter. It only exists to have Wolverine in it. Jubilee again is there, but doesn't get to do anything. Every main character sucks. I do not like Beast. I do not like Cyclops. I don't like Mystique. Xavier and Magneto, like always, are the only good things in this movie. I feel sorry for Oscar Isaac having to do this. Man.
I feel like this is one of those movies where you need to like apologize to like I feel like Oscar Isaac deserves an apology.
Yes.
Because like that was not cool. Like
it was a job for him, I get it, but like
no. Like the amount of money he probably lost for taking this role is not worth it.
I mean, I get
not really, because Star Wars, but still.
Yeah, but at the same time, you're in Star Wars. You can do better.
No, like, and he clearly has now. Yeah, but I mean, like,
Midnight, whatever. But yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean that Dune. So he's done other stuff, but even though he got killed off in Dune,
did he?
But,
no, he.
Yeah, didn't he?
Jason Momoa did. I don't think he.
Maybe he did. I thought he did, didn't he?
I don't remember. I need to rewatch that movie.
I'm not 100% sure because that was a long movie, but
yeah.
I'm like 85% sure he got killed.
A lot of people did die, so it wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. But yeah, it's honestly, I kind of recommend it just to like, if you're wanting to watch a movie that does literally everything wrong, just as like a little case study of what not to do when making a movie. X-Men Apocalypse is that movie. I'll leave it at that for now. Maybe we'll get into more of it when we get to it on your list.
Yeah, we'll get there.
I'm very curious what your number 11 is.
So my number 11 is the other newer recent. I have Dark Phoenix.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So I had not seen this movie. This is one of the only ones I had not seen before doing this.
Mm.
Man, I know why I didn't see it.
Maybe it's just because both times I watched Dark Phoenix, I watched it the day after I had watched Apocalypse, so it took the stung out of it a bit. But oh man,
yeah. I wanted to get into this movie because I like the idea of the whole like Jean Grey Phoenix Force thing, but like, I could not get behind the Phoenix thing at all. I was like, this is so stupid. It felt like she was just being like sassy. It was like not even like, it was weird. It was like,
you're telling me that Beast, who's not actually Beast, he's not blue for most of the movie. He basically Hulk, where he can just like go back and forth. Why not?
Kind of more Hulk in these, especially like the prequel movies.
He's ridiculous.
Because even in that scene, not to jump ahead, but even in that scene in Days, he's like, "Oh, I'm just free," and then he gets angry, and then, and I'm like, okay.
And then he just goes back. It's like, sure, whatever. Beast, I guess Hank technically, because he's not blue. Beast is like going over some diagnostics with Jean after she, almost died in space. He's like just checking her out, and he's like, "Huh, your readings are off the charts. This is weird." You can go. I'll look more into this later. Like, the smartest man on the team is like
the most powerful person, arguably, is something definitely abnormal. No, that's probably not a problem.
The X-Men in this team has been a team for 9 years. There was a 9-year time, or maybe it was 8. It was at least an 8-year time skip between Apocalypse and now. You're telling me in that time, Beast never realized that the Phoenix, or Jean Grey, was the strongest person on the planet? So maybe if her readings are off the chart, she might want to quarantine her and do some more tests before just throwing her back out there.
Nah, go get him, champ. Like, really?
This is all your fault.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, too, it's like...
Hello?
Oh, no, sorry, I thought I heard something.
Oh.
But no, it's weird, too, because, like, at no point were they like, we can't stop. You know what I mean? It's kind of just like, it's kind of like you see something happening, you're just like, that's crazy. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, you don't think that's like an issue, or like, like you might want to address that? No? Okay. Are you sure? I mean...
And my favorite line from the entire movie is immediately after that scene, Jean Grey goes back to her room with Scott, which... Side tangent. I've never liked Scott in any of these movies. Like, even in the original movies, I didn't like love him.
No, it was terrible.
But at least you're like in the original trilogy, you're at least like in the mindset of, you don't like him because he's
like written to be the rival to Wolverine. So you're not supposed to like him.
Yeah. It helps that he doesn't actually get to do anything in those movies, like, at all. So, go.
Side tangent to your side tangent? Okay. Mm-hmm. So me and my brother were watching the first X-Men movie, right?
Yep.
And they get to the scene where, like, they meet Logan, he gets his room, he's like, "Oh, where's your room?" She's like, "Oh, with Scott." And then Scott's like, "Stay away from my girl." He's like, "You gonna tell me to stay away from your girl?" "Nah, I wouldn't have to. She wouldn't be my girl if it did." And then he's like, "Stay away from my girl." And I'm like, that is the most punchable face I have ever seen in my life. And me and my brother were talking about this. We were both like, I would have just, I couldn't help myself. I'm just like, you gotta get hit. I'm sorry. Like, it's like, and I know the whole shades thing is part of the powers, but that really doesn't help.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's just like, this guy, like, he's so annoying, and I hate it because I originally was introduced to X-Men through the X-Men Evolution cartoon,
Mm-hmm.
and Cyclops was probably my favorite character in that show. And in every
Mm-hmm.
single movie, Cyclops is arguably the most annoying character.
The worst character.
And it's just like, how? Like, how did you like? And again, like you said, in the original movies, yeah, he's kind of written as the, rival character. So he's written in a way you're not supposed to necessarily draw to him, which makes sense. But then after that, when they completely,
Mm-hmm.
reboot or whatever, he's still annoying.
Very annoying.
Now it's like I dislike him, but now it's not even justified dislike. Now it's just I just don't think he's a bad character.
He's written badly.
Yes, multiple times in various scenarios.
And him and Jean together are the worst. Like I just.
Oh my gosh.
So my favorite scene in the entire movie is right after Jean was told by Hank, "You're off the charts. You're fine, but you're off the charts." She goes back to her room and told that to Scott, and Scott goes, "Beast told you that? Big blue furry guy? That Beast?" First of all, he said it in the most annoying way possible.
Yes.
And second, you didn't just describe Beast. He's not big, blue, and furry when he. It's almost like that scene was written before before the actor decided he didn't want to wear the makeup.
I think that's 100% what happened, because they were like, which again doesn't really make sense, because it's like. But then again, it's like, well, you knew he wasn't gonna wear it before, right? Because we've done this before, so it's like
for 3 movies in, he has.
That's what I'm saying. It's like this isn't the first one, so it's like you kind of knew. Like, I don't know. Anyway, it's annoying because all of Scott's lines are annoying. He's not helpful, ever.
Nope.
Despite having a very general but still powerful power set, and it's just kind of like. Honestly, Scott has caused more problems than solutions with his powers, which is really sad to say. But like even excluding the origin stuff where it's not, all the other stuff, even in the OG movies and in the it's like you honestly hurt more people than help people. Because I can only think of one time he actually helped anyone, and all the negative times I'm just like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the people who made the movies just really didn't like Cyclops for some reason, and they were just like, you know what? Cyclops is a tool. We're just gonna make
Sure.
He is! Consistently, despite the movies being inconsistent, he is consistently a tool.
Mm-hmm. And I love so much how in this movie Xavier is dead wrong. Literally everything he does, everything he says is the worst decision you could make. It was a bad decision, knowing how powerful Jean Grey is, to to put those mental blocks in her brain. Especially but this isn't exactly new material since we already covered this in X-Men 3, but I'll get to that later. Yet in the moment where Hank is confronting him, I feel like the movie is pivoting us to being on Hank's side. Yet throughout that entire conversation, Hank's actor was it was like that was the only take they had, because the actor is British, but it was almost like every other word he was just barely keeping his American accent intact. Cause I could clearly tell in that scene in particular that that he was not American. Yeah, and just everything just fell flat. Everything didn't have the energy it should. So I get that he's in a state of mourning, but he's also in a state of righteous indignation. So I feel like I should be on Hank's side. But because James McAvoy is so much better actor, I was on his side.
It's when the person has a better argument, but it's just how it's portrayed is just done so poorly. It just doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because again, just every single X-Men movie, Professor X and Magneto are the best part of it.
Yes.
Like they're the only fun parts.
Consistently, and again, even in the even in the reboots and whatever, it's still the Magneto. Like Magneto, and like I love Hugh Jackman, but I'll be honest, I think I like Magneto just consistently better.
Oh,
just
absolutely.
Because every version of Magneto is awesome.
Because it is completely justified for in. The only thing that was like apparently kept consistent throughout the canon of the entire saga is that Magneto really cares about Raven. So when Hank tells him Raven's dead, he's like, "Who? Let's wage war on everybody!" And like that makes so much.
Well, guess the world's burning. It's so true. But yeah, not.
And again, I feel like Hank, you're mad at the wrong person. You're the one who did it, but okay.
I mean, yes, but like, if he was responsible, there'd be no plot, which honestly might be better. But I don't know. It is what it is.
It's not next on my list because I have bigger fish to fry, but it's bad. It is bad.
Understandable.
So, we're entering into the top 10, and this might be a potentially very spicy take.
Okay.
But my number 10 is X-Men First Class.
Really?
This movie irritates me. Because when you're writing a prequel to a highly successful trilogy of movies, ideally, you want the things that happen in this movie to be consistent with the movies you're being a prequel to. At almost every single instance that they can, they just choose to not do that. My favorite example is at one point, I think Magneto like leaves because he's mad about something. Charles tries to stop him, whatever, but Magneto still leaves. In the next scene, it starts out in the lawn. You see this big sphere. It kind of pans into a window, and you hear the government guy going, "We call it Cerebro. Hank built it for us to enhance your powers."
Oh no.
It was a major plot point in X-Men 2 that Magneto and Professor X built it together.
I think that was even X-Men 1, to be honest.
Yeah, because Mystique stuck in there and like tamper with it. It was a huge deal that Magneto knows how this thing works.
Right, because the only way she would be able to make it so that Charles would be taken out is if Magneto knew exactly how it worked.
And not to mention, the way the scenes are written, it would have been so easy for the government guy to be like, to just bring Xavier into a room, have like blueprints for this machine, be like, Hank has been designing this thing, we haven't had the resources or the ability to make it, but like, you know, we think it might have the ability to enhance your powers, what do you think? And he's like, with a few modifications, I think we might be able to fix it, although, you know, we'll need some help putting it together. Magneto can come back in and be like, I can probably help you build it. Montage of them building it together. Hank can help, whatever, but have them building it together. There you have Cerebro. Like, it's written so perfectly for them both to be in the process of building it. But several different times, Hank says, I built this thing. When no, you didn't.
I think that's when they were confident the retcon was gonna, like, you know what I mean?
But you didn't have to retcon it.
I know. I agree. Again, I'm not the see my previous statements, but like still, like it just, I don't know.
That, like, they're just a prime example of, I know all these movies are written by different people, different directors, whatever, but you're still under the same studio. You still have the original movies as like what you should be aiming to eventually get to, yet this is definitely the biggest example of something that was really important to the original trilogy just swept aside for no reason. And Also, not to mention, never in the original movies, nor do I think in the comics. Really, I can't really. I'm not like the. I'm not. I don't have like the deepest knowledge of X-Men comics, but I don't think Mystique and Professor X were ever like roommates growing up. Was that ever a thing?
I don't know. I don't think so.
It at least never came up in the original trilogy, so I don't see why it would be true.
But I mean, I think they just did it to kind of make the characters more connected.
Sure.
Just I mean, I don't actually know, but
just have them meet in college. It wouldn't be the big whatever. And another example of like a joke that only works if these characters know they're in X-Men movies is when Professor X puts on the Cerebro helmet thing that Hank designed. Again, he makes it very clear.
I built this thing.
Literally, yeah. It's like when I built this thing, I built
like can clip just play that every time you say that.
When he puts it on, he's like, Xavier makes some comment about it like not fitting right, and Hank goes, maybe it'll work better if you were bald. It's like ha ha. It's like why? You wouldn't make that joke if you didn't know the future.
And also, make a better helmet. That's such a stupid comment. Like, that's like someone saying it's like, oh yeah, these shoes, like, oh man, like, the shirt doesn't fit. Oh, well, maybe you should gain some weight. It's like, no, give me a better shirt. I'm so dumb because it's just like that is not the, especially when you just had it, you could easily just make a smaller one.
Yep.
Or like a bigger one. It's like I know what you're trying to do, but because you did it poorly, I'm not giving you points.
Not even half a point, no. And
get no points.
God have mercy on your soul. So, another thing that just irritates me about this movie, and really the entire trilogy as a whole, but especially this movie, I don't know if this is actually a thing in the comics, but the Zoe Kravitz's character, who I forgot she was in this, she's a girl that has like dragonfly wings and can spit fire out of her mouth.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that character should be called Dragonfly.
I agree.
But no. They call her Angel.
Even though you already have an entirely different. I know.
Like that's no, it's not even. It's not. It wouldn't be like. It's not. It's no. Angel is like one of the X-Men. Like he was one of in the comics one of the first class. Like he is a huge deal. Like the whole reason the Cure exists. Like. His dad is like one of a major X-Men antagonists. Like he is one of the X-Men, and you're just gonna have this random girl be also an Angel. Granted, in Deadpool 1, Gina Carano's character is also named Angel for some reason, even though she's just like strong. I don't know.
Isn't it like Angel Dust or something like that?
Oh, maybe. Why? Why Angel Dust?
I don't know. It was some weird name. I don't know. It was just funny because it was. I thought it was funny because it was supposed to be like a. You know how it's like you call the short guy, you call the tall guy tiny or something like that. I thought it was all. Yeah. It's like, oh, Angel Dust, and she's like some giant chick who just like, oh, all right.
Okay. Fair enough. I think Francis calls him Angel, like calls her just like Angel for short sometimes. So that's still technically a fourth Angel in this franchise. There's two different Angels, one in X-Men 3, one in Apocalypse, which are different characters because Apocalypse Angel dies. and I know this scene from First Class gets memed to death, but remember in first class when they killed the man who can't die?
You know, I had that on my notes, and I was gonna hope you didn't, because that was what I was gonna start with. Okay, so here's the thing, because I'm watching this, right, and again, not to make this a thing, but there's the trope where the black guy always dies, right?
It's true.
And it's weird because I was like, oh well, at least I remember, like, I was like, oh, he's like that, and I was just like, are you serious? Like, why? Like,
You went so far out of their way to kill the black guy first.
That's what I'm saying. It was like the most extra way too. It was like he didn't like get like, it wasn't like a sneak attack or anything. It was just like this weird like, I mean, I guess he ate the bomb energy or whatever it is. I don't even know the name of it.
His powers are explicitly stated to adapt to anything.
Anything.
His internal organs don't count, apparently.
That's what I was kind of thinking. I was like, I was thinking, is it only an outside thing? But then I was like,
sprouting gills.
That's what I was thinking. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, if he can make gills from like putting his head in a fish tank, then I'm like, okay, that has to, like, your inside has to be on board with that. You can't just get gills on the outside and your body just like, oh, cool. Like, you have to be fully on board with that inside and out. So his inside clearly shows examples of like adapting. So it was kind of like, why can't he just become like impervious on the inside and on the outside? But I guess not. But I guess,
yeah.
I don't know. And it was weird because that was supposed to be like this big emotional moment, and like I was just like dumbfounded, like how stupid that was.
We didn't even have a team montage of them training or doing anything yet, so we didn't even know this guy. Like, he was recruited, and 5 minutes later he's dead.
Yeah, and that was the weird thing. And it was weird because like there is like, yeah, that was kind of like, and again, I thought the power set was interesting. I didn't know how like offensive it could be, but it could be very defensive. Yeah. But like, which again, he did use at first because he covered up Angel, and then was Alex did the whatever he does with the like hula hoops of death is what I call it. But,
yeah. Who in the comics, Havoc is Cyclops' younger brother, than the movies he's older, but whatever, it's fine.
Yeah, I don't know how that worked out, but the point is, hula hoops of death shielded her from it, which worked kind of, except it didn't. And then I don't know, that was the whole thing. I was just like, all right, but
and Sebastian Shaw in this movie is so underwhelming as a villain. Not only are his powers stupid OP to the point where like I can't get behind this guy being a character, let alone be the villain.
I mean, it's a comic book movie.
I know, but like, and I know X-Men are ridiculous, but just the way it's shown in the movie is goofy to a point of like what is happening, because he like his whole thing like it's weird. I don't get it. Although, like, the other villains, Emma Frost is just kind of there. She doesn't get to do anything. You know, Emma Frost, again, is, like, one of the standout
X-Men character.
With villain and hero, yet she doesn't get to do anything. And I think the worst part about this movie, the thing that frustrates me the most, is that there are a couple of decent scenes here and there.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Xavier Nazi Hunter in the first 20 minutes is fantastic. I want a whole movie of that. That should be a movie. Get Michael Fassbender back and just be Magneto Monster Hunter, or Monster Hunter, not. But like, Magneto Nazi Hunter, that's your movie. Shaw can still be the main villain, but you beat him in the end, whatever. That's cool. There's also the training montage towards the middle. The little scene between Professor X and Magneto about being like, you have this incredible power, yet you're not really able to control it. You need to find the fine line between anger and serenity. That's where your power is the strongest. Like, I feel like that is actually a very cool moment, because like that actually does contextualize other parts of the franchise pretty well. Because when he's lifting up that giant bridge in X3. Like, he's thinking about like actually good thoughts, not just not anger. That's cool. Or the scene at the very end, when he actually is killing Sebastian Shaw. That shot, that's one of my favorite scenes in the entire franchise.
Is so good, dude.
Like the fact that it keeps cutting between him and X, just like, oh my goodness.
It is really funny though, watching him be like, ah, because he's like feeling the pain, but it's really, it's like his look is kind of funny. It takes me out of it a little bit, but the idea, the coin scene, how it's the coin, like the same coin, like it's really well done.
Yes, but that's undercut by the fact that Magneto's helmet came from Sebastian Shaw just randomly.
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
Like literally, at like a third of the way in, Sebastian is like, "Oh, I have this helmet that can block that can block psychics. Why do you have this?" Like, he just has it in a chest somewhere. It's mine now. It's like, and like you.
And it also works.
Why does it work? Like it makes again that only he wouldn't have that if the movie didn't know Magneto needs to get that at some point, even though it makes so much sense for Magneto to make that and specifically to counter Charles.
Right, because it makes way more sense for Magneto to make it on his own or find a way to figure it than to just be like, oh, well, that's convenient.
Yep.
Just in case me and Charles ever become bad guys, I might need this.
Yeah.
I could use this against him. Like, you know what I mean? It's like spoon feeding him as he goes. Like, oh, I could use that too, and then my mind would be. It's like, really, like, okay. But.
And then, of course, the very, very end of the movie when Magneto deflects Moira's bullet and it just so happens to hit Professor X right in the back and paralyzes him.
Exactly, like, yeah.
So, if I were in charge of this franchise, I feel like you could very easily have a whole trilogy very easily set in the prequel timeline. You have, you can basically do First Class as is and just end it slightly differently. Like he kills the villain guy. The other mutants that are on Sebastian's team, they kind of go their own way. Like Xavier's obviously like really cross with Magneto, but like maybe he can like kind of understand. And they just kind of like keep going from there. Keep going. You can still have the second movie be about the Sentinels, and then the third one is when Magneto finally like actually goes evil. And when he actually goes, the moment he actually goes evil is the moment where like he's actually actively betraying Charles and does something to intentionally.
And he like he actually needs the helmet, like that. And again, I feel like growing towards like it. What I hate a lot about prequels is like they'll like there's just one split second moment where everything turns out exactly how it is, and it's not a process like in real life. It's like you don't just decide, all right, today we're mortal enemies. Like it grows over time, and I like what you said there. It's like where you could like they build it, like you could sense they're kind of growing apart, but they're still kind of work. If they really needed to, they come together, and then it eventually gets to that point where it's like, all right, this is the last time. Like we're not after that. There's no coming back from this. And then you pick up years later, and it's like, oh, that makes sense.
Especially since in X-Men 3, they had that flashback scene of them recruiting Jean, and they were both walking, both old. It's like, because the way it's currently set up, again, this movie frustrates me to no end. The fact that they've known each other for like a month, maybe. It was within a year, most.
It's not long. They're just like, most. Hey, you want to go get mutants? Yeah, like they're just Lewis and Clark in it, basically.
Yeah. And they like don't even really get to interact with the First Class that much before they split. Like it should be a huge deal when the giant, the massive mutants that they've collected like sever and go their separate ways to form the Brotherhood and the X-Men. Like, that should be a huge deal. But instead, they just have to rush to, oh, Professor X is paralyzed, and then have to write around him not being paralyzed for the next movie for no reason when you could have just not had that happen. It's really annoying.
It is. It's dumb because it's like, again, you could have very easily just not have done that yet.
Mm-hmm. And again, it's more of a problem with Days of Future Past, but Charles reads memories from Wolverine. He reads memories from Origins. Mm-hmm. When he's at the end of Origins, he's standing as Patrick Stewart, bald. But like, he's not bald or standing
or old as Patrick Stewart. Yeah,
I don't know.
The inconsistencies abound, despite the movies coming out after what they originally were intended. Like, and that's kind of what is weird to me, because it's like, you knew what you were referencing and you still did it wrong.
Yeah, like, these movies were billed as being prequels to, like, we're going to show you how we got to where we were in the original trilogy. And in the first movie, they just gave up. They gave up early in the first movie.
Just gave up.
Like I said, this movie, I understand it's, like, really not, like, that bad of a movie. But as far as personal enjoyment, it irritates me too much.
And that's understandable, because it's like, again, the continuity errors and like this could have just been written smarter. I kind of try to lean on the whole, well, maybe they didn't know they were getting another one, but like,
this is X-Men.
Still, I know. I'm just saying, like, because I mean,
they got another one after making Origins of Wolverine, after making X3, which was also critically banned.
I'm trying to like rationalize the decision making, because outside, like, normally looking at that and being like, yes, let's do that, doesn't logically add up. So I'm trying to be like, okay, what could be in their head to make that make more sense?
Sure.
No sympathy. Just. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Anyway, you're number 10. You want to turn a light on? You're a little dark.
Yeah, I'm about to say, I'm going to turn my light on.
Go for it.
I know. I was about to say, give me a second.
Man. Kill the man that can't die.
Okay, that's better. You can actually see my facial expressions now.
Cool. You're number 10.
But yeah, my number 10 is X-Men Apocalypse, as we talked about earlier. It is a movie. Yeah, so I know we already discussed this a bit, but like, yeah, my biggest issues are, one, like, I mean, Apocalypse's origin is just kind of like, what? Like, it doesn't... His motivation is because I'm evil, and it always bothers me because it makes no sense. And it's just like...
It's something like, because humanity has superpowers in a metaphorical sense, and like nukes and weapons and stuff, that makes them think they're better than gods, and because he's a god, he needs to stop that from happening, so I'm gonna just destroy the entire planet.
Which makes no sense!
By way of doing the exact same thing Ultron did by just touching a TV, absorbing all of the radio waves, I guess, that were of channels that were currently on TV. I don't know how he got all of that. Like, why was footage from like past wars being played? I don't know.
I know it's Apocalypse and he has all this power and whatever, so he can just kind of get knowledge, but it's...
But they didn't...
like... I'm not questioning how he learns about it. I'm more like, how did you come to that realization based on what you learned? Because again, this plan makes no sense. Like, it's just like, I'm gonna destroy the Earth. Why? Because I'm evil. Like, he can say whatever you want, but you can pretty much rationalize it as because I'm the bad guy.
Yep.
And it's not, and then there's no like real serious backstory. There's no like, it's just kind of like because the movie's named Apocalypse, and I No
Yep.
apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to cause the apocalypse and end the world.
Even though
that's my character.
the movie
Like,
is called Apocalypse, he doesn't get to do anything. Like Apocalypse's whole thing at least in the X-Men animated show is that he gets huge. Like, that's his thing. He gets huge exactly once in a dream sequence, and that's it. Like, come on.
No, I mean, clearly it's annoying too because you like, especially now knowing Oscar Isaac like I do now. I'm just looking at this. And I'm like, oh, buddy, like this is. You're better. Oh no! Someone get him out of there. It's like watching like a wounded puppy just like try to like. It's like someone get him, help him, get him out of there. Like that's not. He deserves better than that. Like, and it's just weird because I don't know. It's one of those movies where a lot happens and yet nothing happens at all.
Mm-mm.
And it's really boring. And it's like, how is all of this occurring? And I am just yawning and like I'm cuddling my blanket and I'm just like, man, like this is how much longer we got? We're only 40 minutes in. Are you serious? Like,
I remember that. Yep.
Oh gosh, like
I
had a couple. Like I double took. I was like, "There's no way we're not an hour in yet." Like I was just like,
as we said before, an hour and a half movie can feel like 4 hours if it's not paced right. This movie is not paced right.
Like it's really not. And again, I know, like you said earlier, I really love either versions, but especially like the prequel versions. I really like Xavier and Magneto, but again, it's not enough at all. Like they're good, they're grind, but it's like, man, everything else in this movie just like.
Why did they need to have an origin story for why he's bald? Why can't he just be bald?
Little things.
And at the very end of the movie, they have those amazing, comic accurate suits. Like, they look so good.
They do.
Like, Mystique's had like the white strip down the middle, like all the blue and like all the different. They all had each had like their own unique colors. Nightcrawler had the red. Cyclopses had some yellow on it. Like all of them looked fantastic for the last 30 seconds of the movie. Then it stopped, and they didn't bring them back for Dark Phoenix because that'd be too cool, I guess.
He said that'd be too cool.
Like. They made jokes about how those suits can't work in the first X-Men movie, and then they actually show, hey, these suits can look amazing, and then just don't use them. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I want to say more, but there's not really much more to say. It's kind of just saying the same thing I've already kind of said.
When Disney reboots the X-Men, just use those costumes again.
Yeah, no, I like the again, like it's like some things are really good, but it by no means saves the movie.
No, not when it's literally just for the trailer.
No,
because those are in every trailer. It's like they're finally in their comic accurate suits to go fight the bad guy. Nope, they fight some drones, and then they're about to fight some drones. Movie over. It's amazing. Just amazing.
It's a movie. It exists.
Yep. Anyway, my number 9 is X-Men: Days of Future Past. Very similar to First Class. This movie irritates me.
Because all that going on.
The very premise of this movie is Kitty Pryde just has the ability to teleport people back in time.
Yeah.
I scoured her Wikipedia page never mentions this.
No. Well, the thing is, not to cut you off, I apologize.
No, go for it.
The thing is, in the original storyline, Kitty Pryde's the one that goes back in time. But of course, Hugh Jackman's obviously.
I thought it was
Is it
Bishop.
Is it?
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
At least in the animated series, is Bishop the guy that like.
Okay, maybe I am wrong. I don't know. I just know it wasn't Wolverine.
Well, they in the beginning of the movie, they do kind of reference that because she's moving with Bishop, and she teleports Bishop's mind back a week at a time. So like they kind of do it, but no, he's not good enough of a main character.
Right.
When it's in the future, you can just do time travel.
Yeah.
You don't have to give Kitty. You don't have to give Kitty Pryde this special ability, which she's never had.
No.
And we're,
no point ever.
And we're just supposed to accept it. Like literally halfway through the movie, she just says, "Oh yeah, I have the power to send people's minds back in time." Like, no, you don't.
You're just telling us now. Like,
what do you
you know how useful that would have been.
What do you mean? You can run. You can walk through walls. That's your thing.
Right. We have to get you a new name now. Like Shadow Time Cat. No, it doesn't work. Like, Time Cat isn't catchy. We need more.
So when your whole premise is like that could have been any character. That could have been a random new X-Men. There's a bunch of random new X-Men. A lady that can make portals. That guy that can warpath things in. The guy that can like see people's aggression from afar. But that's those like there are random other new X-Men around. Even Bishop's new. You could just have some random new psychic person that can do that. Whatever. But no, instead you just thrust random psychic powers onto somebody who's literally never had.
Because movie.
Okay. Now, my least favorite scene from this entire movie. It's very short, but it's so unnecessary and so, again, irritating in the same way I've mentioned before. Wolverine is sitting on a plane. I think it's right after they broke Magneto out of jail. Magneto gets on the plane. He reaches for Wolverine's newspaper, and Wolverine like stabs it with his claws. They exchange a look, and Magneto goes, "Imagine if they were metal," and then keep walking. Like, why would you say that if you didn't know you were in the X-Men movie? You have no way of knowing that would happen.
Well, there is no, that's
like,
there's no. It's literally just there because they know. Like,
but that scene would have like. But like, if they just exchanged a look and he kept walking, we the audience could like, we know that's what they're thinking. Like we know that Wolverine is like, "Ha, you can't mess with me because my bones aren't metal in this timeline." Like that's so like we can kind of still extrapolate that, but no, they have to lay it in so thick that Magneto has to break continuity just to make this joke. Like, why would he? Like, yeah, I can't imagine they're metal. It's like, what is this? I don't know. I just there's little jokes like that throughout this entire franchise. I hate this so much.
It's like they really, like, you can kind of tell they're really not trying to sell the continuity. It doesn't really matter. Like the big things they try to, but for the most part they're just having fun with it.
And
especially in this movie.
And why does Magneto need to be the big bad in every single one of these movies?
Because it's Magneto.
But like, it would have been so much cooler for him to be like, I don't know. I feel like, Magneto's goal is to try to make, like, his end goal in life is to make mutants in his own corrupt way is to make mutants. Try to make society believe that mutants are at least on the same level as them, if not superior. What better way to try to make it look like mutants are superior than him coming in to save the day, killing all the Sentinels and then saving the president's life, and trying to be like the hero, and that can like corrupt him from there. But no, instead he tries to kill the president himself. Like, that's not necessary.
It's like he can't be one up. Like, he has to be the one. I don't know. It makes no sense to me either.
I don't know. And because And because Mystique doesn't shoot the president, she's regaled as a hero.
Congratulations on not killing someone.
No.
I mean, the bar, it is Mystique, so I guess the bar wasn't super high, but, like, yeah.
I don't know. And, yeah, we've already discussed so we've already kind of discussed the fact that Beast isn't blue for most of these movies. That's because he developed this cure in First Class, kind of. But it backfires in that movie to make him actually beastie. But then 10 years later, he's literally developed the cure that's like the main plot of X3. It's a bad thing it exists.
Yes.
But in this movie, he just somehow invented the cure. And this is never brought up as that. It's never like Wolverine isn't like what are you doing? This is like like he
it's literally just for the makeup thing.
Yeah. But you I don't
It's okay. Just
it annoys me because again they rush to having Professor X crippled in the last movie, and then in this movie most of it he's not. So they have to write around making Beast just invent the cure to write around a mistake they made last movie. It's annoying. And like this movie doesn't even really have that many. It has a couple of decent action scenes, particularly in the future timeline. Although they did kill Bishop, the man who absorbs energy and blasts it back, by blasting him with energy.
A lot of that going around too.
Hey, remember when they killed the man who absorbs energy with energy blast? Like, twice now.
I mean, if it ain't broke, right? Like, just yeah, why not?
I don't know.
It's funnier the more you say it because it just doesn't make any sense.
As far as like quality goes, Days of Future Past is probably like dead set in the middle. But as far as enjoyment, I can't get into it. It irritates me.
It's fair. It's confusing for no reason, also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Number 9.
Okay, so my number 9. Let me get my list up. Oh, the Wolverine. Yeah, that sounds about right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Wolverine in Japan is better than Wolverine in his past, I guess, but not that time. Like, I don't know. It's I don't know. It's the things I liked about the movie were I liked the idea of kind of exploring a new area. Mm-hmm. And I think there was a lot of potential with that. But then the further you get in, it's kind of like, wow, they're not going to do anything with this, are they?
Nope.
And they didn't. But
not a one.
No, they didn't. But I mean, it kind of. I can't remember what was my selling points. I should have wrote more down. But like, it just. I did kind of like the connection. He was great. I know it was kind of weird that they're just kind of together, but their connection did seem okay. I don't know. It wasn't it wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. It was fine, and and at the end it is kind of emotional, and it's like really intense, but like it's not really because you're like, well, I mean, it's Wolverine, he's fine, but like. Mm-hmm.
Like, he ends the movie with his bone claws back, then Days of Future Past, he just has metal again.
Yeah, which is, again, dumb. But, again, we just don't... I don't know. I don't know. It's... I'm kind of starting... The more I watch it, I kind of feel like the Wolverine movies are kind of just their own thing. Because, nothing from those movies... Like, watching them together makes me dislike them more. So I kind of just put them in their own category and just kind of don't... And
Yeah.
again, if I was watching these again, I would probably watch it that way because I kind of just was going in production order,
Mhm.
and I'm like, I probably should just watch the Wolverine movies on themselves and then kind of sprinkle
Yeah,
them in.
especially
Yeah.
since in the Wolverine, it's not even explained why he's not currently with the X-Men. He's just
No, at all.
away. He's in the woods.
Yeah, like there's no, and that's the thing. This movie doesn't really like. I have no idea where this movie takes place. When this movie takes place,
Nope.
you're just, hey, there's Wolverine, go. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like it's not like it's weird because it's like not. It's barely an X-Men movie. It's kind of just.
Yeah, like especially since we did just have First Class, a prequel, and then 2 years later we have the Wolverine, which takes place at some point after X-Men 3. But yeah, it's not really explained how far in advance because Days of Future Past takes place way ahead in advance. But yeah, how far is that gap compared to Wolverine compared to X3? We're not sure.
Not really sure.
Like,
It doesn't really explain.
Because unless my roommate and I essentially established that every single X-Men, just like an inherent power of being an X-Men, is the ability to stop aging, so or at least like slow down aging. Because by the time Dark Phoenix comes around, Quicksilver should be like 40 something, if not like maybe 35 at the oldest. Yeah, he still looks exactly like he did in 1973.
Super fast metabolism that keeps him. I don't know.
But also
that even does anything.
Professor X yeah, Magneto didn't age a day.
Yeah, no. I mean, obviously we know the real answer, but yeah.
I know, but clearly, Beast doesn't want to wear makeup at all, so I guess can't really age him up any. Because yeah, he's been around since 1962, I think, and now this movie takes place in 1991. That's a long period of time for him to look the same.
Exactly the same. Like the only one that makes sense for is Logan
and Mystique, because she can look like whatever.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. I guess I didn't think about that.
But Charles looks and Eric Magneto look the same as they did, or not that much older from X3. However long in the future it is.
No, that's the thing. It's like in 30 years of time, you age not a day, and then in because again, X1 is like 2000, so like in 10 years you age.
Yeah. So if we are going off the canon that the prequels are actual prequels, 1991 in 9 years, like I already have to stretch to believe. Ewan McGregor turns into Allen Guinness. I don't know. I don't know what Fassbender is.
Like, maybe in the desert you just age like crazy, but like no, this is you can't even like argue this way. It's just like what? How? Like
Michael Fassbender and Sir Ian McKellen don't look anything like. Both fantastic actors, best parts of the movie, but they're not.
No, but it's like playing the same character. It's like I don't know about that, but again, I digress. It is, yeah. But as far as to get back up to, I was going right. So I'm Wolverine.
Yeah,
right?
the Wolverine. Yep.
Right. Okay. But yeah, as far as getting back to the movie, it's just like it's fine. But again, nothing ever interacts with. It's the most island of the X-Men movies, in my opinion. It I remember it kind of came out of nowhere. It just kind of does its own thing. It doesn't really affect anything else, and it just kind of exists.
Yeah, you can just not watch it ever and not miss anything.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, and that's kind of it's like low, but it's not the lowest just because it's like it's not actively hurting other movies by existing.
Right.
Therefore, it's not as bad, the worst in my opinion.
Yes. But the reason it's as low as it is on my list, the bottom is I legitimately felt like I wasted an afternoon watching that movie.
And that's a solid argument.
There's at least like a so bad it's good element of Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix to an extent, especially X-Men Origins Wolverine. I feel that movie is amazingly bad, whereas this movie is just boring bad.
See, you like it because you like the bad, but like for me, it just hurts more.
That's
like,
fair.
Oh god.
Anything else about Wolverine before we move on?
Just it. It is the most. It's an island. It doesn't really affect anything. It doesn't add anything. Wolverine's story does not change. If anything, it changes. Like you said, like he doesn't have the claw that he does. So like I don't know, and then that's it.
Yep. Okay. So my number 8 is X-Men Dark Phoenix. Not good.
Yeah, we've established Dark Phoenix isn't anybody's favorite.
It weirdly, this might sound like a weird statement, but of the prequel movies, I feel this movie feels the most X-Men-y. I feel just the way it's shot, the way the action sequences are set up, they feel the closest to the original trilogy.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Just that like one scene between Magneto and Beast's little gang and the X-Men in the street there. That train sequence, just it all felt
the train sequence is like that was probably one of my favorite scenes in it for sure, because like I love the part where Nightcrawler just takes the person, leaves them in the front of the train. I was just like, oh.
Yeah, that scene carries this movie hard, enjoyment wise,
which is kind of rough because again, it was like not that long.
Yeah,
but it's it's just. There were moments that were okay, but a lot of it, I'm just like, wow, this is rough. But
again, I don't remember Cyclops doing anything in that scene.
No,
I remember Storm. I remember Nightcrawler. Yeah. I remember Magneto and X, but not. No, I don't remember Cyclops doing much.
Not really.
Even though concussive blasts out of your face should be pretty useful,
especially in like a group fight.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like you could just kind of glare in the general direction of the bad guys and just kind of be supportive, but like apparently not. Whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, it's bad, and I'm glad they ended on that.
Yeah, it's something. It could be worse, but it could be a lot better.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. You're number 8.
Okay, number 8 for me. I have the first X-Men movie.
Okay, that's actually next for me, so we're good.
Yeah. So this movie is like, this is the part where I'm like, okay, it's not bad anymore for me, because the first X movie is not a bad movie. There are moments that are like really, like. Pretty much, like I hate to say it, but pretty much anything to do with Toad in this movie is like kind of weird and doesn't really make sense.
Yeah,
but
because it takes both Storm and Cyclops and Jean Grey, together
to beat Toad.
Really, Storm just shot him with lightning, and that was it.
Right, but it was weird. That terrible line, but we'll get there. But
like he should not have been doing it.
It's weird to me because it feels like the X-Men, like I know like they don't use that many. There's like 4 of them, but like they're like they come in like these like we're professional, we know what we're doing, and they are trash.
They are.
They were like really bad. Like they get bodied multiple times. Like it's so annoying. First of all, Jean should be way stronger. Like Jean in this movie is so weak, and it's weird. Like I was like, is that really Jean? Like I was so because again, like she doesn't know how to use her powers very well. She's like timid with her powers, even though she's definitely the strongest, and like it doesn't really like of course Cyclops does his typical I'm gonna be around, but I'm not gonna do anything. He only makes one shot that's actually useful in the whole thing, and it's not even beginning. It's that he like kind of hits it enough. It's just I don't know. It's a whole thing.
Like it should be so easy for Jean Grey Jean Grey alone, but at least Jean Grey and Cyclops together to just pick up Toad and shoot him.
Yes,
he's dead.
Like how is that hard? Like, and that's my thing. It's like it feels like they feel like stuck because they don't think this through. Because honestly, if that's your team up, like Jean and Scott, that should be your bread and butter every time.
It should be the villains. Literally it should be the villain's goal to try to separate those two. Like,
right. Because again, and especially knowing, like, especially how close they're supposed to be, it's like obviously, like that's the obvious goal. Like, just serve them up and blast them to smithereens. Like, that shouldn't be that hard.
You think?
And somehow, of course, and again, it doesn't help that like Toad at least is never really considered like that big a threat for the Brotherhood or whatever. So it's kind of just like, really? But I don't know. It's whatever. There's, Wolverine and not Cyclops, Sabretooth had their little spats or whatever, which are, it's fine at the time, but then you watch the X-Men Origins, you're just like, I'm not even gonna. I don't care. Whatever. It's just whatever. But again, Patrick Stewart.
Yes.
And what is his name?
Ian McKellen.
Ian McKellen. I keep getting the new one and the old one's names mixed up. But yeah, Ian McKellen. Okay, first of all, Magneto is amazing.
Oh,
in this, like,
yes.
especially this first one. Like, I really underthought how good. Because again, he has so many good quotes. Like, his demeanor, how casual he is about being the bad guy. He's just like, yeah, nah, I'm gonna kill all these guys. I don't care. Like, yeah, no, I like what he does. Like the thing with Senator Kelly, although the effects look kind of.
Oh yeah, like, it's an early 2000s movie.
2000s thing you've ever seen when he's got that swirling vortex thing doing. Like, it's just like it feels like I'm watching every Spy Kids movie, everything, like everything that came out before 2003 but after 1997, I'm watching at the same time. But yeah, it happens, and it's just like, but it makes a good point. He's gonna turn to the most hated mutant person into a mutant, kind of, and that's a whole. And again, like, I know the machine kind of doesn't really, work to the full potential he wants it to, but it's a good point, and he still kind of makes it. He's not wrong.
Yeah.
Because he knows, like, people are gonna turn against him. They already has. He's obviously seen it, so like, yeah, it makes sense. And again, I like his demeanor's really cool. His power set's really well done. And again, like, yeah, just good. Him and Patrick Stewart do a really good, like, back and forth kind of, like, Malcolm X MLK thing. But like, it's interesting. I will say, Rogue.
Oh.
Is
no. Why? Why?
I don't.
Maybe it's just because I like the X-Men, cartoon so much, but Jubilee is right there. How Jubilee be that character?
It's annoying because it's like really terrible. Like, it's and again, I'm not coming after the actress at all.
Yeah.
But how the character was written, their role in the story, pretty much everything about the character was just kind of like pointless.
Again, I feel like a broken record, but like, it's so weird how half of the X-Men characters don't do anything.
No!
She didn't do anything the entire trilogy.
No, she literally was in this movie
as a plot device.
Be a plot device, yes. Because she exists, she has a very specific power set, which is the exactly convenient power set Magneto can use to use his machine and not die.
Yep.
And all this stuff. And of course, they have the dream sequence or whatever, or not the dream sequence, but when Wolverine's sleeping, she like wakes him up, and then, oh my gosh, I stabbed you, but it's okay because I stole your powers and didn't die. Yep. And like, I'm like, that didn't need to happen. That was not it. I didn't learn anything from that. That was just kind of
like, we already knew she could do this. Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, and it annoyed me. And like, oh, she gets the white streak from using the machine. I'm just like, you could have just had her die or hit. Like, okay, whatever. Just doesn't.
And then she doesn't get any cooler in the next movie either. She just keeps.
No, and that's kind of what bothers me. Like, Rogue's character does not get better. She is consistently a plot device the entire time, and it really bothers me because again, it's Rogue. Rogue's one of the like you said, one of the X-Men. So it's kind of like, why are we not? Especially when you're not. Then the other X-Men are just like you said, like there's 3 X-Men doing something, and the rest of the X-Men are just chilling out. And it's just kind of like, y'all wanna join in?
Literally every single time in the entire trilogy, whenever Storm is in trouble, she just gets like slapped around a bunch, and then she decides to try, and then wins.
Yes. Which is kind of annoying because it's like you could have just done that to start. Again, super powerful mutant also gets bodied by Toad. Like, really? Gosh,
but yeah, I feel like it.
Also, this is kind of a side tangent, I know, but
yeah.
like, when they're doing the whole fight thing, and they have the Mystique thing, and she like tries to turn different versions. I'm like, you guys are mutants. It should be extremely easy to tell who's who.
Yeah.
For one, Jean's on your team. You should automatically be able to just read the person's mind.
Yeah.
Two, just if you can't like be like, if you're really you, let me see your power. Like, you know what I mean? Like, she can't fake like shooting lasers out of her eyes. Like, you gotta be like, at least I don't think so.
No.
So I mean, so like, I mean, I don't know. I understand a shapeshifter generally would be very hard to deal with, but I feel like in that scenario where you A, should know each other very well, and B, have very specific characteristics and abilities, I feel like it shouldn't be as effective as it was.
But at the same time, when you're Mystique and you're going up against Wolverine should not do as badly as he did in that fight.
Exactly.
Like, Mystique shouldn't kick Wolverine and Wolverine falls down. Her leg should break.
Has, like, that's the thing. Wolverine's like full metal everything. Like, you should kick him and your foot should break, or at least,
like,
you know what I mean?
In the comics, that's the case. Let alone when Wolverine's a foot taller than he should be. It's like there's more mass there. Just
ginormous. And I know it's just action scenes for the sake of action, but it was kind of like, really?
Yeah.
Are we doing it? Kind of. I don't know.
It definitely is hugely held back by the fact that it's a movie from the year 2000.
Yes.
And like, yeah, special effects weren't as good as they could be. Just the way things were shot were just done differently back then. Like, which is super evident by X2 just being a significantly better movie despite only coming out 4 years later. Like, yeah, if it had come out even, I think if X1 had come out even 2 years later, like around the same time Spider-Man did, which I know is only 2 years removed, but like that can still, I just feel like if it had come out after the first Spider-Man, it would have been a significantly better movie. Even if it had the same plot, it would have been just a better looking movie.
Yeah, and again, because I try not to take too many points off for that, because again, it is 2000, so it's like, at this point, it's been 22 years. Like, the effects at the time were significantly better than how we would see them now, so we can't be too harsh on it. But at the same time, it's like, oh, wow, that's like...
Yeah, I try not to, but like, I still look at the fact that there are other things about it that are disappointing. So, but it is still a fun movie. So.
Yeah, no, they could have done better, but I mean, it's not perfect, but...
Yeah, that's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's in the middle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was my number 7. So.
Oh, okay, cool. So I go again?
Yeah.
Okay, so this time I have First Class.
Okay.
So I really do like First Class a lot because I remember being like, oh man, they're doing a prequel. This is going to suck. And then I saw it and I was like, this didn't suck. Like, at least I didn't think so. Because, like, yeah, there are parts of it that are kind of weird, but it's like, some things I did like about it where it's like, Xavier actually teaching people. Like, oh, that's a nice change of, you know what I mean?
Because
in a lot of the other X-Men movies, it was kind of just like, hey, be an X-Men. Okay, what do I do? Just live here. Oh, okay.
I do really like him teaching people. I really wish Magneto and Charles together were more involved in teaching people, and like, if I remember correctly, it was more like just one at a time.
Kind of,
teaching. But yes, actually, think about it. I think it was like more so Charles, especially with Havoc. I think it was Charles and Beast teaching him. But anyway,
I think I know with Havoc there was that scene where he like had the like military bunker or whatever, and he was just like, "Oh yeah, go for it. I'll just close the door." And he comes back like, "Oh my god!" Like, the whole place is like in flames or whatever. I thought that was really funny. But yeah, I really appreciate that they actually show the time to like, we're here to control it. Like, Charles's whole thing is to control your abilities so you can be accepted by mankind. And I like how he's actually like practicing what he preaches, because like, and it's also not just to be killing machines. It's like, yes, we're gonna use this to like, be heroes, but also like just so you don't blow up your toilet or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like, practical as well.
Yes.
And that was really cool. Of course, I really like his dynamic with Magneto and how they get along. I know we talked about there's the whole the villain's not super amazing, but it kind of, at least for me, it was okay because he wasn't really supposed to be he's the villain, but not really, because it's you're really just setting up Magneto's villainness kind of. So he's kind of like the placeholder villain.
That was why he annoyed me specifically, because I felt like him and his organization was more so a Magneto villain, and the other character was just kind of tagging along with Magneto's story. When I feel like the writers really wanted to make a Magneto movie, but they had to make an X-Men movie, so they made First Class. I don't know. I just feel like if the villains were more involved, if the heroes were more involved in the actual overarching plot, that would be one thing. But they just kind of were strung along for the ride. But it was fun.
Yeah, I mean, and that's true. I guess it just kind of, for me, it was okay because you kind of knew this was where it was going, and especially this being this was definitely a prequel thing, so it's it was I'm okay with it because again, Magneto's really the big bad, so it's he can just be some faceless no name kid, kind of not to throw too much in, but it's kind of how in the prequels it's kind of even though they don't have a lot of time setting up Count Dooku, it's you don't really care because he's not really the bad guy, he's really just a placeholder.
That's fair.
You know what I mean? It's kind of we all know where this is going, so it's kind of it's okay to just have somebody kind of just, because you can't have the movie you can, but it would be hard to have the movie with no villain and then a villain, and then you just make a villain. So it's kind of it kind of makes sense. There's at least a plot device, but at least something to have a plot in order to get to where we all know this is going. If that makes sense.
Yes.
So yeah, that's how I kind of saw it. So it wasn't a huge deal on my part. I did like a lot. A lot of the scenes are really good. I like, the whole thing with Mystique is at the end she kind of has this ambiguous and where she saves. Do you save the president? Oh my gosh! All this stuff. It's yeah, but
that's Days of Future Past.
No, it is.
Yeah.
Oh, now I'm getting movies. See, this is why I can't binge movies. I'm getting the endings mixed up. Okay, I'll save that for the next one.
Because Mystique at the end, Magneto kills Shaw. He instantly turns evil and is like, "Brothers, this is our time to rise up. They hate us, blah, blah, blah." And then he's like, "Come with me and we'll do whatever." So Mystique just goes with him. It's like, "Hank, come with me, mutant and proud and all that." And he's like, "No." And then well, bye. And then they leave.
Okay, sorry. I know that happened because I definitely saw that movie. I don't know. The prequel one's kind of mixed in my head there. But anyway, yeah, I don't know, but again, I did like this one. It was the whole thing with the the mutant that can't die, obviously dying is just wow. Okay, and again, it kind of in a way, it did kind of set itself up because it's kind of in the movie where you're oh yeah, this guy can survive any fight, and that's the first guy that gets wasted, and you're just kind of in a way, it kind of says it's still stupid. Don't get me wrong, but because it shouldn't work, but it's still all right, whatever. But yeah, I really like the scene where they're just going out and let's go mutant shopping, basically.
Yes.
That's a really good scene where they're just kind of seeing all these powers, and it's they're well, what about you guys? And then they show him he does this, and and it just kind of it was very cool and a believable scene, and also built a lot of their connection, which again, it kind of feels rushed when he just immediately all right, I know we're buds, but also mortal enemy. How you doing? You know what I mean? So
that's why the prequels as a whole frustrate me so much, because these two characters are so good together. Individually, they're fantastic, but together, especially, they're amazing. You want to see them build up this entire, mutant clan together, only for it to come crashing down at a climactic moment. But it just kind of happens.
Yeah.
Like you could have gotten, like I said, you could have gotten an entire trilogy just based in this era, but and you can still do Days of Future Past at some point in there, but they just kind of don't do it. They just rush. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Rush, differences of opinions, whatever it might have been, but yeah, it was a good, and it had a lot of potential. Like, yeah, they did rush things. It's like you could have definitely spit out, but it's like maybe there was some ulterior, like again, some they didn't know. Like, I don't know, but for what it did give you, it was very solid in my opinion.
Yeah, but again, the scenes at the beginning with Magneto just going around terrorizing Nazis was a lot of fun. Like him like grabbing that one guy's gold tooth was so good. Dude.
Like I don't know. I have a weird thing with teeth. I was just like, that was like, ooh.
Okay, my number 6 is X-Men Origins Wolverine. I love this movie. It's so bad. Like it is so unbelievably bad.
It is so trash.
But like
it makes others movie worse by existing.
It does. It really does. And again, just like with First Class, which is why it's so weird that they didn't learn from their lesson, they were gunning so hard for this movie to be a prequel, to set up an entire franchise of origin stories. Yet they threw in Wolverine and Emma Frost and Cyclops all in the same movie
for no reason.
For no reason.
No reason. They did not need to be in that movie at all.
And they threw Deadpool in there too. Just
wasted
Deadpool. They had another guy that could teleport, played by Will.I.Am for some reason.
Yes.
They also had what's his name? Gambit. Gambit's also in this movie. He's also a super popular X-Men. He could have had just his own thing later.
That's right, dude. I forgot about him. That's what I'm saying. Like they just like all these like really notable, important characters. They're just like, let's just have it, just to have it. Like, and again, this is supposed to be Wolverine's story, and there's so many other characters in it, but then they don't do anything, so it doesn't. I don't know. Mm-hmm. It's like having them just to have them.
And again, just the editing is so fantastically absurd. Just the scene of him like it's they blow up those old people's house and he like goes out on the motorcycle. The scene of that helicopter chasing the motorcycle is one of the worst chase scenes I've ever seen. Just why are they missing every single shot? Just the way it's editing, I literally couldn't tell where the helicopter was, where Wolverine was, how far away each was, like where he was going, what was happening. And then like it finally ended with him just like going up and just making the helicopter fall. It was just it was so and ending with him walking away from a fiery explosion, which was like overdone in 2009. Like, come on. Just and the fact that the climax is Wolverine and Sabretooth, finally teaming up to fight Deadpool, and I feel nothing is
no. I feel bad for Deadpool.
Man, it's the movie that like if I don't. So here's the distinct difference between X-Men Origins Wolverine and the Wolverine. If someone came up to me and said, "Hey, do you want to watch the Wolverine?" I would say, "No. No. I'll never watch that movie ever again." If someone came up to me right now and said, "Hey, do you want to watch X-Men Origins Wolverine?" I would emphatically say yes.
Oh my God. a no on both accounts.
No, I get it. I get it.
It
But
would just be a faster no for Origins.
because like the thing is someone who because someone who's like asking me to watch the Wolverine probably really likes that movie, and I don't care about that opinion. Like there's nothing you could do to try to get me to actually like it, because it bores me out of my mind. Like it is in my opinion, the worst kind of movie, which is boring. X-Men Origins Wolverine, ideally, the person who asked me to watch it also really likes watching bad movies, so I would enjoy watching this bad movie with them. So, yeah, it is. It's something special. It is exactly as bad as everyone makes it out to be, and that's why I love it.
Oh, I know it is worse than people think it is, because it's been so long they forget. I forgot.
Yeah.
It's anti-continuity, if anything.
Yeah. No, it really unnecessarily is like, it takes this super traumatic moment of him coming out of the water, like seeing all the blood and what they did to him, and like freaking out, and just again with bad editing, he just like comes out, roars, and then leaves. He doesn't even like kill any of the scientists. He just, yeah.
Oh, I mean, it's. Oh.
Yeah. Oh boy. Okay.
It does exist.
What's your number 6?
Unfortunately, it does. Okay. So right after First Class, I have Days of Future Past, because they're pretty. This was interesting. I really liked Days of Future Past because I really liked how they kind of went for the whole "we're gonna meet in the middle" thing and just kind of like connect it, which I thought was cool because like you have 2 universes, you might as well. Time travel's not that hard, especially when you have X-Men, so like make it work. Again, it's a good idea to make Hugh Jackman the main character because, A, it's Hugh Jackman. That's what everyone goes to all the X-Men movies for anyway, because, I mean, it's not like Cyclops is carrying it, so let's be real. I'm sorry, I know
It's true, though. It's true.
It's fair, but it's still like, oh. But yeah, I like the idea. He's, he goes back in time. He kind of just, he goes back. He's like, hey, man, I need you to be this guy. They're just like, what are you talking about? Oh, it's okay in the future. Boom, boom, boom. And he kind of recruits everybody. There's there's all these, it's a good movie. It's a good movie. I know you don't like it as much as I do, but I think it was really good. The characters, for the most part, weren't as annoying. Like, I know the whole, like, Beast not actually being blue thing is dude, but it's kind of one of those things where it's just like, okay, Beast doing things isn't really. I don't know. I kind of expected him not to do anything, so it kind of didn't bother me that he didn't, if that makes sense, except for, like, being the smart one, I guess, but supposedly, but he kind of makes some dumb decisions, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah. And like I said, it's exactly in the middle of your list, which is what I say quality-wise I feel is about right for X-Men stuff. It just, apparently I cared more about X-Men continuity and X-Men, like, stuff than I thought I did, and so it just irritated me. After watching them basically back to back to back to back, it was too much.
And I'll be honest, I feel like the problems with continuity are because of just qualities of other movies have gotten better. So I feel like, especially with like Marvel movies, continuity is a very big thing.
Yeah.
So I feel like it bothers us more now when movies don't add up. Because I feel like if this had evolved in like 2000, like I feel like we would not have cared as much.
Totally.
Because it's like, oh, well, it's close enough. Or, they have the same name. It's no big deal. Which now it's like wait a minute, but that doesn't add up because in this movie he said that, you know what I mean? Even though this, that, and the third thing. So it's kind of like, but I mean, at the same time, it's like you could have very easily have just made that add up. You just didn't want to.
It's honestly the Kitty Pryde having random new superpowers things. I think that irritates me more than anything else in the entire franchise.
I mean, that too. That also makes no sense. And it also kind of has like especially at the beginning, it kind of gives that like almost like Justice League Dark Apocalypse vibe where just everyone's getting killed and just like, Oh,
Yeah, that's another thing that like in general, I when that those kind of things happen in movies, it just kind of like skews me out a little bit. Even like the end of Infinity War, I just like I can't just like watch for fun. Like I don't know, it just triggers something in my brain like, ooh, I really don't like this. So seeing Iceman
yeah.
get just like cracked in half and just
Yeah, his like skull break or like Storm just casually gets impaled and thrown off the side. I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
oh
Yeah,
no.
like character. If it's people that like I don't care about, or
Yeah, like
villains, or
new
like
people.
throwaway people, who cares? But like you know, people I've grown at least a slight attachment to. I yeah that I wasn't looking forward to those bits.
No, and yeah, and I know that's more early on, but like it kind of threw me off a little bit. But it makes sense because it's like we got to go back to fix all this, which kind of makes sense, I guess. But yeah, overall, it's a good watch, and I really like the scene where they have the Charleses kind of meeting in the mine. I thought that was a
Yeah.
really good scene to just kind of like, oh, they're connected. Because again,
Mm-hmm.
both were heavyweights in their respective continuities.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like that they get to come together and kind of share that. I know they didn't
Yes.
have the Eric's meet, but that would have been really cool too.
Yeah.
But yeah, but for overall, really, yeah, I know we talked about it a bit already, but yeah, a good watch. Definitely one that like kind of messes up how we understand everything, because I guess this movie writes other movies out of existence and all that. But
Sure.
I like, if you could ask me how this fits, I don't really know. But like just sitting down with a bowl of popcorn and watching it, I enjoyed it more than the other movies.
That's fair. Okay. Yeah.
Because at this point, I just didn't even care about continuity anyway. I was like, once time travel is introduced, continuity is kind of already like done for anyway. So
Okay. The Quicksilver scene in this movie, actually,
oh
on rewatch, I like it even more than the Apocalypse one. I just it's. Although I don't love how Wolverine is like, I know a guy who could maybe help. He'd be a lot younger now, and even though Quicksilver was never in the original trilogy, like you do not know this guy, but whatever.
that did kind of
Eh.
wait. Yeah, no, wait, yeah, what the heck? I
He'd
just
be
realized
like
that.
he'd be like 70 in the year 2006, we'll say, Last Stand,
Yeah.
because that was 40 years after this movie, and he's like maybe 18 in Days of Future Past. Yeah, he'd be close to 60. I
Which
don't
is
know.
weird because he's supposed to be Magneto's son.
Yes.
So like, he's old, but he's not that old. Like, is he?
I don't know. Well, no, because he was like 10, 12 maybe in the flashback scene when he moved the gate.
Right,
And
Holocaust, but like that's the 40s, so that's 60 years.
He's like 70.
So he's like 75.
Yeah.
So yeah, that doesn't really.
Doesn't add up? No.
that doesn't add up enough. Not for me. No.
No.
But
Whatever.
again, continuity wise, what the heck? Especially since we hadn't seen him before at all. Because again, he could have easily have been more made an appearance, but I guess whatever.
Yeah. Whatever. But yes, there are like a decent amount of scenes that are pretty good. I just personally didn't like it nearly as much as you, and that's fine. Yeah, it is right in the middle of quality wise, and that's where it belongs. Yeah. Let's see. My number 5 is X-Men: The Last Stand.
Yeah.
Yours too?
Yeah.
This is a really fun movie.
It is, and again, like a lot of like trilogy ending movies, it's very much like, all right, we're pulling out all the stops kind of movie.
Yeah, it is a really fun movie. However, it definitely has the Spider-Man 3 effect. Actually, came out before Spider-Man 3. Of we're just gonna have every villain ever in this movie. Like the studio mandates we have the most iconic villain in there, even though the movie makers wanted to have this other thing, but like they have to shoehorn in because the Phoenix makes this movie worse. If the Phoenix weren't in this movie, literally, like, this movie could be so good if it just focused on the cure and angel
Yes.
stuff. Because imagine that scene like towards the middle where Rogue is like, "Is it true? Can they cure us?" And Storm is like, "There's nothing to cure. We're all like, we're all fine just how we are. Like, don't have those thoughts." Like, imagine that scene, but in the room you have Cyclops, Angel, Rogue, and also Wolverine, Storm, and Charles. I feel that's a cool balance of three. Maybe Beast in there too is kind of like in the middle of this debate. Where like you have three characters whose powers make them stupid cool, and three characters whose powers directly impact how other people view them.
Mm-hmm.
And you have Beast who's like, I've accepted myself as a mutant, but I got a little taste of having a hand for once. Who like a flesh hand is like, that was kind of cool. Like, imagine like that cool debate between like Cyclops is like, yeah, of course you would like to have, of course like to keep your powers. You can control the weather. I can't take my glasses off without killing people. But no, Cyclops died so early for no reason.
Oh my! Again, not like again. I did not care because of how much, but yeah, how he died just, especially when it was just like, oh, here's his glasses.
Yep.
It's just kind of like, really? That's his death? Like that could have been. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
so
no,
because
but I agree. I think that would have been a much because again, that makes a ton of sense. Because again, mutant powers are very different. So like, for the people who their power, they just get upgrades to life. Like, yeah, that's great. But then for the people who like, look deformed or can't use their body, or what I mean, like. And again, I've seen instances of that because again, I'm gonna think this is kind of wild, but I don't know. You ever seen Static Shock? Like it was, like that was one of the big plot points because it was like, yeah, it's cool for some people who can like control electricity, but then one person like looks like a blob or one person looks like a bird. You know what I mean? Like you can't, like you don't, especially when you don't choose your powers. Like yeah, for some people it's a burden, other people it's just cheat codes for life. So it's like,
and
it's a fair debate.
I feel Angel basically should have been the main character of that movie, where it's like, he's in the room with that discussion where it's like, I know these people accept me for who I am, but my dad hates me.
Yeah.
Even though flying is the coolest thing ever, my dad hates that I have this ability. So like, do I care more about people like me, or do I care more about my family? That's such a good,
it's a great debate to have.
Not even just like, because X-Men has always been like an allegory for racism in the 60s. So like, just that's not only just a good debate for the movie, but just like a good life, like, do you care more about your peers or your family? Like that's a debate some people just have in life in general. Do you want to literally physically change who you are to be yourself, or do you not want to do that to please your family, or vice versa, whatever? Like that's so interesting. But because we had to throw Phoenix in there, Angel had like 2 minutes of screen time in the Cure movie. Come on.
Which is weird, because again, like it makes so much sense for him to be the central character. Because again, like you said, his dad's the main antagonist. Like
no, Magneto's the main antagonist.
Well, I know, but you know what I...
Yeah.
His dad should have... I mean, again, not to hate Meg, but his dad probably should have been the main antagonist. Again, I like... A lot of times, like, especially with powerful hero teams, I like when the villain's not necessarily someone you can, like, just punch.
Yeah.
I like where it's, like, a concept or an idea, or, like, in this case, the government. Like, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like... It makes it more... realistic for one, because not all problems are just goons and hockey masks.
But yeah, like Magneto wanting to go to war with humanity for creating the cure is such a good concept, and the X-Men reluctantly needing to like step in and stop the people who hate them from getting killed by Magneto.
Right.
Like that climax is amazing. Like it ending with Wolverine basically being bait for Beast to stab Magneto with the cure, making him no longer a mutant. it should have ended there. Like, that's the end of the movie. But no, it kept going, and you had to deal with Phoenix stuff.
Like Gene, and then my favorite Magneto line. He's like, we're there, like, let's get him on. He's like, oh, in chess the pawns go for it. I was like, yeah, like I love.
Yeah,
I love that line.
My favorite scene was just a little before that, because when he's like, humans and their guns, and it's like, oh, they're all plastic. Interesting. Well, go get them. And then, leading into that. Like, I can't just magnet my way out of this. Oh, sorry.
Well, no, it's cool because it's like, it makes sense. They've adapted, because, they've seen, everything else that's gone on with Magneto to this point. So they're like, let's not, have, anything crazy. But, yeah, it's really, but I really like that scene. It's really smart. Again, the cure is a great idea because it adds a legitimate conflict, not only just in general, but between the X-Men, or at least it should, or so it's like, it's a really smart way to do it. Everyone's, like you said, they pull out all the stops kind of to a fault, but I mean, it's a lot going on. And yeah, it does kind of have a Spider-Man 3 vibe to it now that you say that.
Yeah. And I legitimately feel like the writers of that movie, I don't know if it was studio mandated or if they just wanted to only do 3 of these, but they easily could have been like, okay, this is this is the 3rd movie. We're just gonna do Professor X stuff, or sorry, we're just gonna do why did I say that? We're just gonna do Cure/Angel and a Mutant War stuff. That's gonna be the end of this, like saga of movies. But then, at the end of that movie, Magneto is defeated. Like, the end of this era of X-Men, Magneto is defeated. And then you could even have a 4th one where you do bring Phoenix back, and that be that whole thing. You kind of need a whole movie. I mean, they didn't do it bad. They did it badly in Dark Phoenix, but you kind of need a whole movie to explore the Phoenix Force.
And I feel like Phoenix would have worked better with this setup because you had enough time to establish multiple characters. They've been through things before. Here it was kind of just like, oh, Phoenix is happening.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
And she keeps interrupting cool scenes. It's like literally the movie just like stops for Professor X to explain, oh, I messed with her mind. The movie just like stops to have her kill Professor X and then her be recruited by Magneto, but then she doesn't really do anything during like at all in between there, and then even during the climax she doesn't do anything until after Magneto's defeated. So like, why
she waits her turn to be relevant?
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, you're right.
I also do really love the scene where they're well, first of all, Magneto's a boss in this movie. Like, again, like I said, this movie is so fun. Just the idea of Magneto just like casually standing in the middle of the highway and just flipping armored trucks, so good.
Because he can.
And then just casually breaking in and just like, breaking all those X-Men out of, or all those evil mutants out of prison. But then that one guard lady like shooting at him and Mystique blocking it turned out to be a cure bullet, and then Mystique becoming not Mystique anymore. And then Charles, even though they've been Magneto, even though they've been through so much together, he's like, sorry, you're not a mutant anymore.
It's like, ooh, this club is for mutants only.
Tough luck, sorry. Like that.
It's like that scene where it's like, oh man, he's such a good argument. Wait, which one's the bad guy? Leaves friend to die. Okay, good.
Yeah.
I needed clarity on that.
And seeing all the X-Men working together in the climax was so fun. I wish we could have gotten to see a little more of Cyclops, well, yes, but also wish we could have gotten to see a little more of Colossus throughout the entire thing. Because he was there a little bit in X2 and then a little bit in X3, but wish he had been more of a bigger presence.
Yeah,
but
it's like, and a lot of them really, because like I know they got a lot. They did a lot more with Bobby in this one, which was good. And
yes,
but
him like going full Iceman when fighting Pyro was cool.
Because I mean, I think in the comics he's like an Omega level mutant. Like he's insane.
All of them are, Why not?
Everyone.
Jubilee is an Omega level mutant. She can just shoot fireworks out of her hands. Yet she's apparently Omega level mutant.
Okay.
Sure.
But yeah, it's like, yeah, yeah, this one was definitely, they pull out all the stops. Like, the fights are big. Like, these are very, like, you know, everyone's getting in on it except Cyclops because, you know.
He got to die.
The guy. But to be fair, was he missed?
No.
Not really.
Not really.
Because, I mean.
But if you had that scene in the middle, or like I said, where they had the debate about, you know.
Yeah, I think that would have been
how cool
good.
their powers are. Like, that would have been really interesting, but.
I think that scene would have easily made this movie, like, way better. Because, again, that's a really strong point. And, yeah, it's a big driving factor beyond mutants. I feel like that'd be a huge part of the cure. Because, again, for some people, it's a burden. For others, it's just cool.
Mm-hmm. Like, imagine Rogue. Because in the movie we got, she just kind of takes it. But imagine in a different movie where Rogue is like, hang on, hey, of course you would say that. You can shoot lightning out of your hands. If I try to touch anybody, they die. It's like,
yeah.
Like I can't exist normally. You can, but also you have cool powers.
That's what I'm saying. It's like other people's lives are just better. Mm-hmm. It's like you have everything, and you can, like, you know, you can read minds, or and you can lift things with, you know, basically have the Force, or you can control the weather, you can run at super speeds. Versus, you know, I'm a blue monster, I'm a frog, like you know what I mean, like.
My dad hates me because I have angel wings, even though angel wings are cool. I can't exist. Like,
growing out of my back when I was a child. Like,
you tried to saw them off my back.
Crazy. I forgot about that. I was like, oh my God. I remember thinking he was just scratching, and I was like, oh no. Yeah, it's like, I can't open my eyes, or I will kill everyone. Like, I mean,
yeah,
I mean, can you imagine how tough that must be? Like,
yeah, if the studio had mandated that Phoenix be in this movie, it would have been a significantly better movie.
Agree.
But the movie we got was still a lot of fun, and I like it. Yeah. That was your number.
That was my five. Also.
Okay. So my number 4. The top 4 are honestly really close together. So. So it's not like an indictment of any of these to say that the rest of the they're all really close. My number 4 is Logan.
Ooh, okay.
It's a good movie. It's so good. The only reason it's not higher is because I feel it's one of those movies where, like, they got the R rating, so they just, like, threw F-bombs everywhere for no reason.
This is true. This is true.
I understand Wolverine, you know, using them more liberally, but Charles using them felt a little off. Like, other random characters just throwing them out just felt a little weird. But outside of that, like, it's paced phenomenally well. Every single character is fantastic. I mean, the fact that there's another Wolverine clone kind of comes out of nowhere. Like, they kind of hint at it at one point, but, like, you can't. If you don't know what's happening, I couldn't, even on a second watch, even though I knew it was coming, I missed it. It's like,
yeah.
but it's fine.
At least it's not Deadpool.
It's not Deadpool. But yeah, the action is exactly as brutal as it needs to be. I really liked the villain. Yeah, just it's a very good movie, and I definitely understand why a lot of people rank it as, like, you know, top 3, if not, you know, number 1 best superhero movie. Like, it is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's really good, and again, it's kind of, it does everything well that the other Wolverine movies don't do. Mm-hmm. It does a good job of, you know, it's, you know, obviously it's about Wolverine, so you let Hugh Jackman be Hugh Jackman. It's extra violent, so you let him, you know, the R rating lets him really be Wolverine, so he can just dig his claws in people's eyes.
He doesn't just kind of go, and they just fall over. He actually, like...
Right! He actually literally, like, dismembers,
Yep.
kills, and again, the biggest thing here is like usually it's like yeah, Wolverine kind of Hugh Jackman kind of carrying with other characters not writing, but the supporting characters in this movie are written extremely well,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's a huge boost to it because again, everyone kind of reacts in this movie how you'd expect it to. There's a lot of emotional moments. I mean, I still think of the scene with the family that they're so
Mm-hmm.
nice, take them in. Oh, we're just passing. Oh, come on, you gotta stay in my. And it makes me sad because that's totally my family in real life, and we would
Mm.
all die. But like,
And again, that's kind of like a parallel to Origins Wolverine that had a similar scene, but it was done way better now.
yeah, exactly. And it's done really well. You
Mm-hmm.
really feel the emotions here. You feel the burden Logan feels of bringing such bad things on other people.
Mm-hmm.
You feel how this little girl feels, who's just a child but has these crazy abilities,
Yeah.
and Logan feels responsible for her, even though he kind of isn't, but still needs to be because
Mm-hmm.
more or less his kid, like not really, but kind of. And
Yeah.
she still acts like a 6-year-old, but also, has these good, there's a lot to like about this movie. It's very, yeah, it's good. And I will say, yeah, like the end with the Wolverine clone does kind of come out of nowhere, but a lot of the other ending factors, like the forest scene where he's just like, oh my dude, like
Mm-hmm.
he just runs through those guys. Like that is such a violent, yes, but very well done.
Yep. And you get all those like mutant kids doing different
Yeah,
stuff
their
too.
powers kind of just doing whatever. Like,
Mhm.
it's just it's. I'll talk about it in a bit, but man,
Yeah.
it is good.
Oh yeah. I probably my favorite scene was when they're in that casino hotel and Professor X
Oh
like
yeah.
stops everyone gives everyone headaches, but especially stops those bad guys that are in his room, and Wolverine struggles up the elevator, and gets to his room, and just struggling against the mind waves systematically, just stabs the people that are
So
frozen.
it just
Just-
it's so yeah because he could kind of he could deal with it better than other people, so he uses that to his advantage. Yeah, that's. Oh, man. But it's so sad to see Charles
Yeah.
falling apart, man. I was just like, oh man.
Mhm.
But it makes sense because it's he's that powerful, but with old age potentially comes complications and whatnot, and
Yeah.
the powers don't go away. He's just can't control like he
Yeah.
used to be.
It's also just one of the best shot movies. Everything is shot very deliberately,
Hmm.
very creative use of angles, shaky cam is used
The
very well.
lighting is great,
Mhm.
especially in that sealed off area they had. The lighting sneaking
Oh
in was
yeah.
really good.
Oh yeah. And it's just across the board one
And
of
the
the best
chase
superhero
scene
movies.
was solid with the limo and
Mhm.
those ATVs or whatever.
Yeah.
Again, everything they did was really done with a lot of effort, you could tell, which
Mhm.
was really appreciated.
Yeah. Again, the only reason it's not a little higher is because I just happen to like the other movies more. It's not. It's probably the best movie on the list, but it's just personally.
Yeah, no,
100%.
I mean, again, this is our list. It's not this Rockets or
I mean, if you put Apocalypse #1, I might have a
well,
problem with that.
yes, I mean, there are objectively all right, we need to talk, but I feel like the lists were kind of in the same. Like I said before, there are kind of tiers, and we're kind of in that top tier now.
Yeah.
Because there's sets of fours. I feel as
Uh,
long as it's kind of in that. But yeah.
okay.
But yeah, really good.
Mhm.
Okay, so my number 4, I had X2.
Really?
Which I
Okay.
really like X2, but it's there are things I really like because again, this is as far as X-Men movies, because I know these are other X-Men, but this is the one where they actually have the X-Men and everything. This movie's really well
It's
done.
amazing. It is. Oh my goodness, the movie is good.
It's so it does no business being this good this early either. And I think that's kind of the thing that surprised me most. I was expecting, because I remember liking it, but I was expecting it to be okay, better than the first one, but still had some things. No, it was like the trope of the sequel crushing the expectations from the original continues with this series. Like it is great. I love how much growth there's been. Like I really like how they take what happened. Okay, what worked in these movies? Okay, people like Magneto. Let me write that down. Okay, people like well, okay, yeah. People didn't like this. Okay, we're not going to do much more of it. Like they really kind of elaborated on what worked and kind of left behind what didn't and kind of went for it. And I really appreciate that. I still love the like something about Magneto, man. Like the prison escape scene, dude. It is like I watched that like 3 times. He's like, there's something different about you. I'm just like, I was like, what is wrong? This dude rips the iron out of this man's body, like blood bends this man, basically. Rips it out of his body, and then just casually, he just. Superior look. He just look like he just got the little spin, something like anime's transformation of the spin. I'm just like, dude, this is so. Like he just, oh my gosh, man! Magneto was like Magneto's always cool, but in this movie, Magneto was so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. But no, it's really done well. I love how they kind of get the teamwork more oriented. It's not just 2 X-Men this time.
Yeah.
There's more going on. They expand the team. It's so good. And again, like God, you say something. No. I need to say.
Yeah. I just the fact that this movie is this much better than X1 is insane. Yes. Because like rewatching these movies, I remember the first time I binged these movies, which ironically both times I've watched all of these movies. I've watched them basically back to back. Like it was like 4 years ago the last time I did this. I remember liking it before, but like maybe I think at the time since I hadn't seen it yet, I was going in with the impression of, I've heard everybody and their mother say this is the best X-Men movie. Mm-hmm. Every other mother say it's like better than even modern MCU movies, whatever. So maybe I went in with that mindset of like expecting the world, and like it does deliver. But at the time, I didn't believe it. Like I was good, but I wasn't like in awe by it. But in the second rewatch, especially watching it the day after X-Men 1. Mm-hmm. It's like X-Men 1 came out in 93 and this movie came out in 2012. Like it is insane just how different in quality the movies were. just the lighting, the composition of the shot, directing, just every action sequences being better. Every single different aspect of this movie is just so much better.
Again, they fixed everything that wasn't really working, mm-hmm. or at least diminished it or changed it or whatever, and then everything that was working, they're like, all right, let's double down on this, and you could tell it worked in spades because things are just. Mm-hmm.
They still didn't give Cyclops anything to do, but whatever.
But again, you didn't really like Cyclops in the first movie, so they kind of just. Hey, let's make it more about Logan. Let's leave Cyclops kind of in the corner. Like, you know what I mean? You can tell they still they still wanted him in the movie, but they kind of knew mm-hmm. people weren't receptive in the first time, so maybe not make him as central.
Yeah, and Stryker was such a good villain. Like this is a good example of something that I felt was kind of lacking in First Class, where Stryker is primarily, or at least like this version of Stryker in the comics, this character is like kind of 2 characters pushed together. But this movie's version of Stryker is more or less a Wolverine villain, but because of his actions and like what he represents and what he does, he is an X-Men villain. Like he directly attacks their home, he directly kidnaps people, like he threatens to experiment on them, whatever. Like he even like goes after Magneto. Like so even though he is primarily a Wolverine villain, he ends up becoming like a movie where essentially I think the difference is in First Class it would feel super weird if anyone but Magneto killed Shaw. However, in this movie, it makes perfect sense that both Wolverine and Magneto both get like the final say against him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and again, good action scenes. Think about what the show like. They break into the mansion, but also I totally forgot. But the opening scene, even with Nightcrawler, and again, correctly using teleportation in a fight, by the way, which is how it should be done all the time, not just push someone and go away, but like actively step, jump, go over here, and that was such a well done thing, and how just one mutant could just almost take take out the president. It's just the mutants are legit. Again, it was just well shot. The angles were good. The lighting's good. Again for 2003, 2004,
I think. Yeah.
I think
3 or 4.
Really good, especially with Nightcrawler. I really liked his design because it didn't really look like just like a powdery blue. It looked like it was like his skin just turned blue. It really looked good like that. So I really thought that was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and that scene in Bobby's home, my goodness,
dude.
Again, just the fact that the X-Men movie, the X-Men are always like an allegory for racism, just any whatever. But the fact that they seamlessly transition into a coming out allegory is so good. It just, and it didn't feel pandering, it didn't feel forced. That just makes sense in the world they created. It was done very well,
right? And it's a really emotional scene, and and again, like you said, it makes sense, and it draws to the central idea of maybe if in X3 when they have that conversation of a cure, maybe Bobby's after everything that went on with my parents, maybe I should so it just
or he could even he could have even been more on the offensive, Rogue, why are you doing this? I thought we chose together,
right,
to be proud of who we are, and now
you sacrifice, and now you're turning. It's I can't go. We sacrificed. Now you're turning back. It's what the heck? We talked about this.
They kind of did, but they didn't really push it. And then the idea that after all that, the fact that when the police show up, they're Wolverine is trying to be stand down, we don't mean any trouble, Wolverine knowing full well we could kill them, but we're not going to, we're better than that. Pyro being nah, man, I'm just gonna burn them to death, and then off just a little lighter.
If you could shoot fire from your hands, you probably wouldn't care about the police either.
Just a little lighter, just a little flame. He's able to just ignite and just blow up it's so good.
So good. And again, it looks really good doing it too. It doesn't look like just weird CG playing. It actually looks really nice.
Yeah. And then again, I really like how in X3 how it evolved into a little gauntlet. He can basically because he can't shoot out of his hands, but it can basically.
It's the way I describe it. It's not like a firebender where he can just grip, but he can manipulate fire.
So it's like a firebender from the movie.
Yes.
But cooler.
Yes. But much better.
You can actually make it bigger and do
because even in the comics, he has a flamethrower. It's kind of like Firefly. He has a flamethrower on his suit, and then he'll just spread out flame, and then he'll manipulate it to turn into a fire monster or whatever, and just go ape. Honestly, it's kind of a cool power. It's a pretty cool power. I think it would be a little cooler if he could just make fire, but I mean, you got to change up a little bit.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just a very good. It's one of the only X-Men movies on this journey. I remember me watching these where a couple of days after watching it, I was still thinking about how good it was.
It's you're watching other X-Men movies and you're like, man, I wish this was X2 again. Me during Orange. Not even kidding. I'm just man, remember that time at X2 where this was way better?
Yeah. Okay. So my number 3, top 3. Number 3 is Deadpool 1. The two Deadpools are very, very close to me.
Yeah.
But I just... They're both very good. But Deadpool 1... I think the only reason I think I like Deadpool 2 a little better because I think it's funnier. And I think it's... I care about the story a little more, I feel. Not that I don't like the story of Deadpool 1, but I feel it takes itself a little too seriously. Whereas Deadpool 2, I feel like, has a right balance.
Not even trying.
has a very good balance of goofiness and, like, an actual, like, a good, action movie.
Agree.
But still, like, Ryan Reynolds obviously kills it as Deadpool. Colossus is fantastic. Negasonic Teenage Warhead is amazing in both of these. Francis is a great Ajax. Francis is a good villain.
Francis. Oh my gosh! Just like the creativity of how they did this too was just amazing to me. Like it was just I love how he goes out of his, you know what I mean? Like, kills people in the hilarious ways possible. He like he gets the cuffs on him, cuts his hand off with the middle finger sticking out. Like,
oh no, you're a woman. Do I hit you? Was it sexist if I don't? I don't know.
Oh my god. It's like, I've only got 2 bullets, so you'll have to share.
And yeah, as good as the soundtrack of the first one is, the soundtrack of the second one is significantly better. Maybe because like all of my favorite songs are in that movie, but still, the first one is still just very good. I just wish it didn't. I wish it took itself a little less seriously in the middle. But like, it's still a very well, generally a very well done movie. Like, it definitely redeems the Deadpool character.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, I mean, that one. Again, the one we got in Origins does not exist.
Does not count. No.
Like, this is Deadpool. It's great. It's funny. The fourth wall jokes are aplenty, especially in the second one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it goes out of its way, and they go out of their way to, like, just make sure, hey, this is not like anything you've ever seen before.
Mm-hmm.
And especially in the first one, I really appreciated that because I was not, like, I knew Deadpool was different. I was not prepared for that. Not to this level of just like, and again, it's still to this day. There's nothing like Deadpool. Like it's its own thing. It's like I love it, and it's just, yeah. I mean, the story's super basic, but you don't care because it's done in the most hilarious way that it just works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. What's your number 3?
Yeah. My 3 is Deadpool 2, actually.
Okay.
So I
Fine.
I think my reason for liking the first one more than the second is just because I was so like I think there's something about never seeing anything like it before that just makes it the first one a little bit better. Even though I feel like if the second one came out first, I'd probably like it more. It's a weird.
Oh yeah, I understand.
Yeah, but I really like the second one because it adds a lot of things to the story of the first one. It still works. It's funny. It's just as funny, if not funnier, in a lot of aspects. And the characters they did add were great additions. I really like Domino's character. I like how Colossus and Nagasaki Teenage Warhead are really fun. Yukiro, like the thing where he's like, "Hey Wade, how you kill?" Like that was so stupid, but it was really funny because it made no sense, but for whatever reason, it just kind of worked because everyone else hates him, but she's just so nice for no reason.
Yep. Josh Brolin as Cable is amazing.
He does really well.
Yeah.
He does really well. I love the whole. I will say, I think the weakest character is
the kid.
Yeah, the kid, which again, that isn't the kid's fault because again, his character was just kind of there. It wasn't really.
Yeah. And again, he did kind of have the rated R syndrome of because it's rated R. It's funny if a kid says the F word a lot, so we're gonna have the kid say the F word a lot.
Yeah.
But it's fine. Like it's fine.
Yeah, it's not bad. It was just like that's like the one thing, but it, it leads to the thing. I love the entire X Force, the hiring montage.
Mm-hmm.
The Do you have any powers? I have type 1 and 2 diabetes. Oh, you're in. Like
Of course.
they're not kidding. Like I just, oh my god, dude. Like it's
Oh.
they have the like I like the tryouts and all, and they go the stream links. They have this whole briefing. They do all these things, and they all immediately die.
And like here's the funniest thing about that entire sequence is, especially on rewatch, all of those are insanely famous actors. Like you got Alexander Skarsgård, you got Terry Crews, you got the guy that plays Snake Eyes. Like all of these people are like really famous people that should be superheroes, and they're just kind of wasted.
Oh, and like the worst deaths. Like I mean, one guy gets chopped up by a plane propeller. The other guy falls like directly into a wood chipper. Like all this like terrible, like it's so much terrible stuff. Like, and of course Domino lands like on a bounce castle,
Yep.
walks right to the perfect. Luck's not a superpower. Yes, it is. No, it's not. Let's meet in the middle and say no, it isn't. Just oh my gosh, it was just like, it's done so well. It's really funny.
Yeah.
It's great. I know I love, or the one scene where they're in Deadpool's house and he underneath the like floor, he's got the cure for blindness.
Which they referenced in the last movie.
That's why it's so funny because it's like the fact that you like it's so terrible for so many reasons.
And then like
You can't find it.
I feel like Juggernaut wasn't done perfectly, but he was at least done way better in this one than he was in X3.
Yes. And I also like that it was completely out of nowhere.
Yes.
I really appreciate that.
None of the trailers showed him
that,
like.
I was just like, oh.
Because like
That's
that
right, this is the X-Men movie.
that scene of him like ripping off like his sleeves, that felt like a trailer shot, yet it wasn't in any of the trailers.
Like there was no knowledge of this at all whatsoever, which again I think added to, because again I feel like when people do like reveal scenes now and stuff, I feel like half the time they're either in the trailer or highly expected.
Right, or
so
like a really famous actor is playing that character, so they got announced beforehand to be in it. Whereas in this one, Ryan Reynolds just voiced him, so like there was no announcement of him being cast because it was just Ryan Reynolds doing it. So yeah.
Right, it was no big deal, so it's whatever. But yeah, it just was done well. It was kind of just random, whatever. Sure, like let's bring in Juggernaut. He's crazy.
Him and Cyclops, Colossus finally getting to fight was cool. Like
yeah,
like
actually a decent fight. And I guess on Teenage Warhead kind of got more action scene a little bit. That was interesting. And then like. There's the scene where Deadpool's legs are broken, or not broken, but like he has the baby legs or whatever. That's so funny. There's so much to like. I really enjoyed watching this again.
Yes.
It's those movies that you can't watch. Like it's not as funny if you watch it like too often, but if you give it time to kind of forget some of the jokes. And then come back, it's back to being one of the best things.
Yeah, because I hadn't watched it since I saw it in theaters 4 years ago, so watching it again was a lot of fun.
Right. Oh, it's so funny. Like I just, there were a lot of times I had to pause to like.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think the first one I liked just a wee bit more, just because it was the first time I'd seen anything like that.
That's fair. Yeah, they're both very close for me, but because because Deadpool 2 is a better soundtrack and is a little funnier, I'm getting into that one for me.
And that's fair.
Yeah. My number 2 is Deadpool 2. Assume your number 1. Your number 2 is Deadpool 1.
Yeah.
Yeah. So by process of elimination, my number 1 is X2 X-Men United. again, it's just good. It's
really good.
very, very good. And again, the fact that the movie, the movie perfectly puts all the chess pieces together to make it make complete sense in the climax to have Magneto and the X-Men actually team up to take on a common enemy, when that's just, I don't know, it just proves that people know how to write a good movie.
Yeah.
Because he tried to kind of commit a genocide in the last movie, and so in a way, you, the audience, should be thinking, oh, Magneto getting tortured is kind of like a comeuppance, but you hate Stryker so much that you want him to get revenge.
Right? It's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, the special effects are greatly enhanced. That evil Wolverine lady was really cool.
Is it Lady Stryker, right?
Yes?
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Lady Deathstrike. That's
yeah,
okay.
Close. Okay.
It was something something.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I thought that was cool because again, it was I was worried at first it was just going to be kind of a Wolverine clone fight, but it's different enough that it really worked.
Yeah, and also it helps that they were fighting. The fact that they were fighting in the room that Wolverine was created, I thought was just very cool imagery, and him using that to beat the villain. It's good.
It was well done.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just so good. It lives up to the hype. I know several people online who rank it as their favorite superhero movie, and I don't know if I personally would put it as my favorite, but I can't really argue with it being your number one. It is really good.
I could see that being that good.
Yeah. And same with Logan, which is, I guess, your number one.
That is true. Yeah, no, Logan's really good, and for me, it's just it does everything that it's an X-Men movie, especially a Wolverine X-Men movie, is supposed to do. It tells a very gripping story. There is excellent action. It's a lot of emotion into it. It dives into the past, but it also worries about the present. And then there's more to it. They bring back Patrick Stewart, which is really cool, but it's different this time. He's really unstable, and Logan has to go from this guy who's always been a loner to he's got this family now. He's got his kind of dad and his kind of daughter, and he kind of has to take care of them. And it's really interesting to see this guy who for so long was kind of on his own is now kind of I'm a family man until he has to sacrifice everything to protect them. And then it's just, and yeah, it's really, the action is really good. These fight scenes are really interesting. It's really cool to see him again actually use the claws. It's kind of like when they had the Ninja Turtles but they only kicked. It's now they actually get to lead. When he slashes somebody, their arm doesn't come back. You know what I mean? It's really interesting to see. There was some good, the suspense is really serious because you don't know who these guys are, but they're after the girl and they're pretty serious. It's really cool to see, and they really invested. There's not a time in this movie that feels like downtime. This whole movie
absolutely
feels like it's just going as intense scene after scene after scene. You're never feeling oh man, we're kind of just sitting here. It's no, it's always on the clock, because as soon as because even in the movie, as soon as they get comfortable somewhere, something goes wild. Oh, we're just we're taking a rest at this family's house. The family gets freaking wrecked. Okay, we're at the casino. Charles's mind blows up. You know what I mean? There's no downtime. This movie is just going, and it's really entertaining. You're on the edge of your seat the entire time, essentially. So I'm really a fan.
Oh yeah. Something you said kind of reminded me of just a fun little trivia. Complete tangent, but it's still a fun little thing of trivia.
Okay.
Did you know? This might blow your mind. Did you know that in the Spider-Man '90s cartoon, Spider-Man contractually was not allowed to punch anybody?
Yes.
Yes. In
Yes.
in all what like 6 seasons of that show, he
Yep.
never throws a single punch. He only ties up
No.
and he can kick, but he can't punch.
Yes, he kicks a lot. He kicks a lot, but he does a lot of tying and pulling, a
Mhm.
lot of webbing enemy. But yeah, he's not allowed to punch, which is interesting because he gets punched,
Yes,
which is
a
very
lot.
interesting. Which is so weird to me because it's like, why can characters punch Spider-Man? Because the Kingpin, like there was one, because I knew this, and there was one scene in specifically, and one of my favorite episodes where Spider-Man gets absolutely like clothesline decked by Kingpin, and I'm just kind of like, and it's not like a cutaway either. Like you see him get whacked, and then Spider-Man smacks on the ground, and you're just like, is it because bad guys are allowed to punch, or like I don't know, because I was just like, wow.
But yeah,
But yeah, it's always weird. It's always weird when they have restrictions like that to me, because like, especially when it's going on the same time as like Batman the Animated Series, who definitely punches.
Oh yeah.
And like, and it's weird because like you already have things like there's no real guns or all laser blasters and stuff like that, and like most of the people are either in costumes or whatever, but it's still like. I don't know. It's always the little things that are always interesting to me. But yeah, side tangent. But yeah,
No, yeah.
that's
But yeah, that's
still a great Spider-Man show.
Oh
Like,
yeah, totally. It's
still
great.
absolutely incredible. There's only like one. There's like half of one season that's kind of annoying, but like for the rest of it, it's amazing.
But yeah, like I said, it is just a lot of fun. Actually, while watching Wolverine just go ham as Wolverine, which
Right,
sorely
'cause it feels
missing
like
from the Wolverine.
right, because it really feels like I know there have been scenes where he's definitely stabbed people and stuff. Because even in like X2, I mean, there was a scene in the kitchen where he just,
Yeah.
like, wow.
But there's no
But, like,
blood. There's no dismemberment. Like
right, it's like yeah,
gets
he
up
definitely
and-
stabbed him, but it doesn't look like there's not oozing blood or really. But like here, it is intense, especially too with the girl like Laura too. Like she knows how to throw down. She throws guys and shoots this and rips them apart. I'm just like, oh my god, man. She's got the like feet claws too. Like, oh man, it's just really good because it's really done well, and the choreography is really good for these fights. They're shot well. It doesn't feel like they're just cuts. It looks like, I mean, there's just long takes, like that scene where Wolverine's just running in the woods. Like it's like he goes through and like wrecks like 6 guys, and he's got blood on his like, rah! Like that's like one long take. He's just going. It's just like that is beautiful.
Yep. Actually, that's another reason why I liked X2 so much, because I remember correctly, there's the one really like well done long take of Wolverine is like carrying one kid, like going down a hallway, seeing enemies going around, like running away, just like finally get like that's. I love long takes so much, like
especially because it really makes you feel like you're in it, like especially a long take of someone like running somewhere or trying to like get out of a place. Like it's so satisfying to see.
Yeah, like it really makes you feel like you're in the moment with the character, and just you feel all the tension that's in it, and especially when the characters are doing something really cool. Like it makes it all the better. Yeah. So like after watching through all the X-Men movies again, what are your overall feelings of the entire franchise?
I feel like the franchise is more a victim of misdirection because I feel like with the amount of movies they had, if they had have kept one vision the whole time, this could have been way more organized and a lot better. Because again, I don't think that the ones that are bad are still bad, but I think they would have been much better if there was more coming into what was going on around it, because it kind of felt like, especially the later 2 prequel movies were kind of just on their own.
Yep.
And it kind of, like in a vacuum, those movies don't have a chance. But I feel like if they had really felt still the same connection, And like you said, like if there was like a growing tension between Magneto and Professor Xavier, and through those movies, like they're going through stuff, but they're still having issues, and eventually they split apart. I feel like that would have helped guide the movies more, but because they kind of did that early, and then after that, it's just kind of like, all right, let's figure it out. It kind of fell off, and I remember when these movies were coming out, it was kind of just assuming they weren't really connected after all.
Yeah.
And I think that really hurt them because they didn't write them like they were connected. They kind of just, they're just doing this and that. It's like, yeah, and the same thing with the Wolverine. It's kind of just on its own on an island somewhere, and it's it's not necessarily horrible, but it's kind of just like it's trying to act like it adds to the story while it doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, it doesn't help that they kept trying to release these movies very close to the release date of another major Marvel movie, like. If I remember correctly, Days of Future Past came out mere weeks after Winter Soldier. Apocalypse came out mere weeks after Civil War.
Civil War.
And then Dark Phoenix was summer 2019, right? Which was dominated by Disney.
Oh my gosh.
Endgame, Toy Story, The Lion King, like everything was making billions, and Dark Phoenix just wasn't.
It was not, and I think that's why I probably got the most hate, because anyone who went to see anything that wasn't awesome was like, "This is the worst thing ever made." But it also deserved a good bit of hate too.
True.
Because again, I feel like Dark Phoenix is one of those storylines that doesn't work if it doesn't have a lot leading up to it.
Yep.
And because these movies, even though it wasn't a standalone, it felt like it was, because the movies didn't seem to work together enough. And it kind of just like, and like the same thing like with this with this potential Flash movie that at this point I'm convinced isn't happening. Like you can't just do Flashpoint with like nothing really coming from it, just kind of on its own. It's like it's not really gonna work.
Yeah. But... So the fact that they just butchered the Phoenix story twice. Like butchering it once, whatever. Studio mandate made them have to change course way late in production, whatever. But you specifically chose, you even set up the Phoenix plotline in Apocalypse, and then just didn't do it like that in the next movie. Like she already had the Phoenix inside of her, but then she got it again in the next movie. Like
it like got awakened somehow from the space thing. I don't know. It made no sense, but whatever.
Yeah. Overall, because X2, Logan, the Deadpool movies are so good, and I do really like watching, even though they're kind of bad movies, I do really like watching Origins and Last Stand, and X1 is like kind of okay. Overall, I have an overall like positive opinion, but it's like a C+. Because Apocalypse, Dark Phoenix, the other prequels annoy me so much. But it's just, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean the highs are really high, but the lows are pretty low too. So I kind of try to just I try not to punish what was done well for what wasn't done well, especially since there's a lot of different hands in this pot.
Right.
So I try to.
Whereas something like, the MCU, we're going on, what, like 25, 26 MCU movies at this point?
26, I think.
That sounds right. Even though there were, 25 plus MCU movies, some of them are some of the best superhero movies ever made. But even, like, the bad ones aren't some of the worst superhero movies ever made. Like, even, some people argue Captain Marvel. I personally don't, but some people argue Captain Marvel... Ant-Man the Wasp, the Hulk was pretty bad. Thor: The Dark World. These are bad movies, but like
Iron Man 2.
But like they're just kind of like middling to just like boring. Whereas these X-Men movies that are bad are uniquely bad.
They're on their own.
Like, never before have I seen a franchise go from having, back in 2003, 2004, whenever that came out, like, a top tier, even now, movies today can't beat this movie, to 13 years later making one of the biggest piles of trash I've ever seen. It's kind of impressive.
I mean, they're trying. Also, 28 movies, counting
28.
Doctor Strange,
Okay.
too. So, yeah, we are going to be 30 by the end of the year with Thor, and then
Black
it says
Panther.
Black Panther, still on pace for November, which I'm kind of surprised, to be honest, but we'll see.
We'll get a trailer before too long. Yeah.
True. Probably right before Thor.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have anything else you want to say about any of these X-Men movies? Before we sign off?
No, I think we've said plenty. I think but I mean,
yeah, I after after binging them all back to back to back over like 3 weeks, maybe it was only 2 actually. I don't recommend doing that because by the end of Dark Phoenix, I was so tired.
and like I said, like kind of when I was really into like with Days of Future Past, we're like after a while, the movies start kind of rubbing together, but not like in a they cohesively work together and like wait, did this happen here or this happen here? Because now this is the thing. I don't know. Okay, who cares? Like, it's about stuff that doesn't even really matter anyway, but it still racks your brain. So you're just like, what's going on?
Yeah.
That's
like definitely watch the original trilogy, and then from there just watch the ones you want to watch. Like,
yeah.
You can even skip straight from X3 all the way to Logan, and you'd be fine. You don't need anything else.
Because like I mean, even though Days of Future Past supposedly erases X3, I think like it doesn't really matter because things still apparent. I mean, in the future, things apparently still go bad because it's just Xavier and Logan for some reason. So I guess they didn't save the future.
I guess not.
I don't know. It's not explained, but it's okay because Logan's amazing on its own, so no one cares.
Okay, anything else?
That's all I got.
So with that, we will see you all next time.
Take care.